I think Julian Assange should stand trial. I am generally pro whistleblower and pro people that are trying to call out bad behaviors. But in that particular case, he did end up disclosing some information that really had no useful purpose except for potential damage to our infrastructure, like the undersea cables location and some other things. So I certainly would not be in favor of I think he should stand trial.
Thank you.
No problem.
Do you support Julian?
Actually, I think that would be a wonderful thing and will be a wonderful thing, because it will end the acrimony and the rancor and the fever.
Well, we'll see about that. But can I ask you about the backstop and what it is that you're seeking? You don't want...
And its intention plainly was to undermine the UK's ability to negotiate, and its intention was plainly to take away the option of leaving without a deal. What I'm telling you is that we're going to obey the law, but we're going to make sure that without extending, we come out of the EU.
I can't see your hand. Have you got your fingers crossed behind your back? Are you hoping that they won't allow a delay? You're going to ask your European partners to forbid a delay
I think what most
in Brexit?
We're working very hard to get a deal.
Are you going to ask them for that?
We're working very hard to get a deal. And as you rightly say, Gary, the intention of the Surrender Act was to make a deal more difficult by undermining.
I did say that, but
undermining our negotiating.
What if the Cabinet Secretary signed this? Would
that is clearly something that we have to take in our stride, but get on with securing a deal.
Could someone else sign this letter that is required by this bill? Now an act.
I'm telling you,
do you rule it
out? The policy of what we're going to do, and what we want to do is get on and deliver on the mandate of the people and come out of the EU on October the 31st. And actually, I think that would be a wonderful thing and will be a wonderful thing, because it will end the acrimony and the without the EU.
And request a Brexit delay. He'd been clear that he would observe general laws. Would he, I asked him, observe this one?
What we're going to do is ensure that the UK comes out of the EU on October the 31st.
Observe this one.
the vote! Democracy!
Labour is the Remain party. Remain.
thought it was one way and Jenny said something else.
That's the sound of a party deciding on a policy and rallying around its leader. Labour is not a party of Remain, but a party of wait and see. Party of Remain, but a party of wait and see. They now have a policy, but no signs of any rifts being healed. This is how close the vote was.
Thank you, and all those against.
Close enough to cause a little confusion.
Sorry, I thought it was one way and Jenny said something else, so...
Contributor appreciation special, belated, but still here nonetheless. Welcome to the Soapbox. I even got the wife with me today. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox, the Contributor Appreciation Special. This special is run to give you guys a thank you for essentially supporting the content, supporting the show. And oftentimes, when I used to do my show, I used to do these, my shows used to be like hours long. And I still like to engage with the audience. And so my thought was a contributor appreciation special where people can ask questions and that type of stuff. We can engage in more thorough way. Not to mention, bringing my wife onto it adds a different dynamic that I thought might work pretty well. So that's the thought. Anyway, I thought something that goes a little bit beyond the politics into stuff that, how does she see it? Somebody who's not firmly ensconced in politics.
I'm pretty ensconced.
No, you're not.
Well, I mean, how often do you have conversations with me about it?
Yeah, but you be zoning out in many of those conversations.
That's fair.
It's like you're kind of there or not. It's like 5 minutes go by and she doesn't blink. And it's like, babe, you okay? And she blinks and be like, yeah, I'm good. So that's typically how it goes. And I imagine that your friends and that stuff aren't involved in this stuff. I mean,
we do, but see, the difference is that you do this for a living. And so you do this nonstop all day, 24/7. You fall asleep doing this. I make a decision to take in news when I want to take in news.
Right.
All of my friends take in news as well. Do they do it 24/7? No. Are they as passionate and as well versed as you?
Do they take it in earnest? Like if you went to one of your friends and you kind of had a conversation, like, would they know that Trump is potentially instigating a war right now with Iran?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Thankfully, I don't have too many friends, so the one I'm thinking about in particular, she knows.
She would know.
She knows. She subscribed to you too. But the thing about it is that you do this, this
All the time.
This is your, this is your thing.
I guess my point is bringing you into this gives a certain different dynamic as opposed to just being the blunt political or history, that type of stuff.
You have some new subscribers. So if anyone doesn't know, my name is Aisha. I'm Mrs. Thomas.
Yes.
The first time I came on was when Trump did State of the Union. And Jamal wanted my take as a non-political person to, watch that live. And that was torture. And so now I come on every now and then for weekly contributor appreciation. So should I give the contributor appreciation spiel?
Absolutely.
I like to do this part. I don't contribute a whole lot because I'm not as well versed as he is, but I can do the spiel really well to let you know exactly why contributor appreciation is what it is. Like Jamal said, he gets a lot of support. If it was not for you, then he would not be here. So he sets aside one show a week to come on and say thank you. We put a post on the Patreon platform to say, hey, what do you guys want to hear on this week's Contributor Appreciation Show? And that way people can go and give their topic suggestions. And that is the content that fuels this weekly show. It used to be called Patron Appreciation for that reason. If you're not familiar with what Patron is a platform that allows you as a viewer to support someone who's producing content. So you say, okay, hey, I like the videos and I want to make sure that he can consistently put out content. I'm going to commit monthly to give a donation of $1 or $5 or whatever it is. And so it's a cool way to help him keep doing what he's able to do and you show support for the channel. And so it's a thank you for that. So if you are a patron, make sure that you're logging on weekly to give your content, topics, suggestions.
Or email.
And you can also email. And also, thank you to everybody who gives outside of Patreon. We have people who give, or he has people that give through PayPal, even the Superchats, Streamlabs, all that stuff is appreciated. And if you're not contributing monetarily, just make sure that you're subscribed and hit the bell notification icon so that you can keep up to date with the videos that are coming out. And just watch it. If you enjoy it, give it a thumbs up and all that good stuff.
Yeah, don't give a thumbs up if you didn't like it.
Yeah.
I have feelings about that. I have certain insecurities that I don't necessarily
like. You don't
like.
want people to give you false likes?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like false likes. Or even false, like, if you don't like me, don't pretend. That type of stuff. Or if you don't feel like doing something, I would prefer the person not to do it. That type, I don't want to overly impose. Yeah, okay. Yeah. It's more so.
It's like fake display of emotions, kind of.
So, you weren't around in the last video, or maybe the last 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. So, you might not have been around to hear about this, but
Sure, I heard about it.
No, I don't think you might not have heard about this. So, this is a video released by the Pentagon. Now, this is an aircraft engaging an object that is unidentified and has no idea what the object is. Now, these videos were released, and I was showing these videos because there were multiple videos. That's a little loud. There are multiple videos like this. 3 in particular that we're talking about. The Pentagon has come out and said, these videos are real and unexplained. They say we have no idea what these things are. Outright confirming what pilots, like this gentleman, Fravor, has been willing to tell the public. Meaning him coming out, telling the public exactly what he saw has just been co-signed by the Pentagon. And not just that, they said these videos weren't even supposed to be released to the public. Now, that part I don't buy. I think that part is there to add a certain degree of, and I don't know if this is a flat fact, but let me say it this way.
Speculation.
If the videos, if they're being honest, but it's the Pentagon, they're probably not being honest, but if they're being honest and the videos have been released and they weren't intended for release, fair enough. If they're not being honest and they wanted these videos out for some kind of political reason, a political motive, it adds a certain degree of correctness to it if you turn around and say, we didn't expect these videos to be out. Does it make sense? Yeah. It's like, we didn't expect that.
No, I know that they did that. I didn't watch that actual video, but I did know that they came out and made that statement.
Yes.
Okay.
3 videos from the Pentagon, all showing our pilots engaging stuff that we have no idea what it is, and its capabilities well beyond what our crafts can do. And listen to Fravor. Fravor was on Tucker Carlson. This guy, upstanding pilot, been in the military for like 20 years. If I'm not mistaken, he was one of those pilots that was flying on 9/11. And he comes out and he says this. And keep in mind, Pentagon has confirmed that these videos are legit.
On tonight, tell us what you saw.
Well, we had launched on a routine training mission. When we joined up, we were told that the event was going to be canceled and that we have real-world tasking, and we were sent out to the west. Now, take in mind that this has taken place about 100 miles southwest of San Diego, between San Diego and Ensenada, Mexico, on a clear, perfect day, blue waters. We get out to the spot where they tell us it's at. We start looking around, and both airplanes see a disturbance in the water and a white 40-foot long tic-tac shaped object just hovering above the water, going forward.
Just so we're clear, this is not, there's a document that was put on some kind of website that the guy got out of a vault that he got from somebody just before the guy croaked. That was a testimony. None of that. This is, the Pentagon comes out and says, these videos are legit. We don't know what they are. Aerial phenomena. They're seeing something. Our pilots are engaging. New York Times, Washington Post, Political, all of these run stories on this very particular point. What this guy's saying here is legit. I saw something hovering over the water and it was doing things that our craft couldn't do. Right. And from his standpoint, it is a piece of technology that he was watching, at least from his vantage point. Luis Elizondo, the gentleman that was working for the Black Budget Project that started all of this, comes out on CNN and says, I think we're being visited. He says, this is not based on my opinion. This is based on the evidentiary research that I went about in regards to this particular program. So you have several people who are part of the military and part of these Black Budget programs coming out saying, yes, I was there. I watched it. It was my aircraft that was flying in formation. And by the way, there's another pilot also. The other pilot that was with him also comes out and gives his testimony about this. Corroborates exactly what he's saying. The Nimitz or the Roosevelt, pick your craft, pick your boat. But the pilots and the people on these boats can corroborate the story. This is not a document somewhere. This is the U.S. government confirming. This is a branch of your military confirming that this is real. Now, the moment that shit took place, all sorts of things should have been like, whoa, what does this mean? Because based on what they're saying, there's something out there that is visiting us. And I keep saying it's either us or it's not. Now, the military is saying it's not us, which has certain implications to it. If it is indeed us, and the military is using this as a smokescreen in order to get kind of more research, more money and research and that type of stuff. Yeah. But that still means there's a parallel tract of technology that is taking place from the standpoint of us. Meaning either some of the physics that we thought were impossible, either we solved it or somebody else solved it. It can't be anything between those two things. It's one or the other. If it is something between those two things, it would mean that there's a lot of people who are lying in this process. And I don't quite buy that. I mean, you're talking about a lot of pilots that have been seeing things, not just one or two, and not just in the United States. I can show you video where British pilots are saying something similar, where they were called out for a mission. They went out, they saw something flying in the air. They had no idea what it was. It was doing capabilities that was beyond their craft. Same thing. Skeptics. Where are they? Now, for years, the UFO community has been saying, this is real. This is real. Yeah, and they were treated like crap. They was like, oh, they're crazy. They're conspiracy theorists. But think about what we're saying. Earth is a ball hurling through space. That's all it is. whatever you do in your daily life, whatever opinions and belief systems and cultural traditions, all that stuff, not entirely real. What is real is Earth is a ball hurling through space. And we are flying at remarkable speeds. And in the same way we go to our celestial neighbors with the most rudimentary of technology, why would we believe that some other civilization might have started in a different way? They might have had different
and be
access.
more advanced in doing so.
Or even started with different materials. Like, we're assuming that everybody started off with even the same materials, where they would, where their technological progress would be different, or progression may be different than our own. There's all sorts of stuff that is possible. And so when I see this pilot, who, by the way, gets nothing out of this, he's coming forward against, typical cultural traditions in order to say this stuff. Listen to him.
Forward, back, left, right. There's no rotor wash. There's no wings, nothing. So as we drive around in a clockwise flow, we get to about the 9 o'clock position, and I said, well, I'm going to go down and check it out, and the other jet is going to stay high. So as we go down, when we get to the 12 o'clock position, it starts to mirror us. So it's in a clockwise flow, and it's on the opposite side of the circle from us. And we continue this. It's in a climb. We're in a descent. We're getting a great look at it. This whole thing takes about probably up to 5 minutes from the time we show up. I get over to the 8 o'clock position. It's at about the 2 o'clock position, and I decide I'm going to go and see what it is, and it's about 2,000 feet below me. And I cut across the circle, and as I get within about a half mile of it, it rapidly accelerates to the south in about 2 seconds and disappears.
What would you have?
Now, his point in this was there is no person that could have been in that vehicle in order to do that. And whether or not it was a drone, whether or not it was a person in that vehicle and they were using physics that was just kind of different than our own, we can't make entire assumptions on this, because it very well could have been using the physics that didn't necessarily have propulsion in the way that we would do propulsion. And he had already said there was no water wash. There was nothing that we would have in our particular airplanes or ships that would give this notion that it was one of ours. I mean, we don't have technology where something can just float without any, usually we're throwing something out of something, like in order to get propulsion. Like,
right.
Like if I was sitting in a chair and I threw a bowling ball.
Right?
Well, in that case, yes. I mean, from the way we understand it. But suppose for the moment it wasn't doing that. And his point is, it wasn't doing that. He wasn't, like, if that thing was hovering over the water, how was it just hovering over the water? There was no water wash. There was nothing under it to show that the water is being pushed back like a helicopter or something. That's his point. He's like, that thing was using some level of propulsion that we have no idea what it was, and that our craft just don't use. That's why he kept saying, this is not us. This looks entirely foreign.
Right.
Whether it's a drone or not, who knows? And what does it matter? He's talking about something that was under intelligent control. He's saying it was mirroring his actions, meaning as he went around, it was doing the same thing to show that it was under some level of intelligent control. Again, whether it was a drone or not is irrelevant. It is doing something that our pilots don't have the capability of doing, and that we don't know, supposedly, what it is. Oh, this is awesome! You have no idea how awesome this is. Like, I think people sometimes miss this. Your government that has told you that this didn't exist, that this was insane. Like,
why isn't everybody like,
right? Understand
like
what
you are?
Well, we are a ball hurling through space. That is real, and you have life that grows even in volcanic pits. Life grows everywhere. It would be weird. Like, it would literally be a definition to some degree where you would have to invoke God to believe that something else is not out there. Now, the question was always, can they get here? And my argument is, why do you believe they can't? Why do you believe they can't? I mean,
I'm hearing that they can't hear me.
Oh, my bad. You might not be projecting your voice enough.
Well, I feel like we're speaking at the same volume, but for whatever reason, I am not being heard as well. I think it's because of how it's turned. Because typically it's a one-man show.
Yeah.
I'm just a little measly add-on for a couple of hours.
But I guess my point is, my basic point, and I'm not going to belabor it, is that for all the skeptics, suck it. Ultimately, the U.S. military has just confirmed that they are engaging something that they have no idea what it is. And this brings back the Bob Lazar stuff. All this stuff starts coming back into the woodwork. Look, I don't entirely take it that this is not us. I don't jump to the conclusion. I used to. I don't do it now. It is possible that it is us, or it's possible that it's not. I would argue that either one of those eventualities are mind-blowing. And when these pilots are putting out there, especially if the news media takes the stuff at face value, we have company. We have company.
Dun, dun, dun.
I am the person out there with the shirt on, called Space Brother, written across his chest, holding the sign up saying, "Welcome to Earth! Welcome to fucking Earth! Welcome to Earth!" Now, the catch is, do I entirely put it past the goal of this being to get contract dollars or more dollars? Meaning right now we're spending like $1 trillion on the military in order to hunt people down in caves.
If there's aliens, then we need even more money.
Yes.
Right?
Well, yes. And beyond that point, it even gets weird, dicier than that. It's very possible that this video is entirely legit. And simultaneously, they are leaking this stuff now in order to get more money. Both can be true.
Well, somebody said it was an old video. You know, these are,
Both can be true. Like, it's not one or the other. It can be literally both. It could be a situation where we have advanced technology and we're being visited. Like, this gets really weird in the permutations that could be taking place. This is an exciting time to be alive, honestly. And to some degree, should be terrifying. It's very possible that the reason why this stuff is being released now is because they want expenditures. They want dollars. This notion of holding off recessions and everything else. If we have something that's in our skies, we need to know what that is, right? I mean, maybe we need to build platforms in space that kind of hover over the planet in order to give us some kind of level of protection. And I know some people are like, what's the big deal? The thing is, people can be cowed into fear very easily.
Yeah.
And especially for something like this where you have no idea what it is, you have no idea how truthful they are being with you about it. All of this is a black box of sorts. Yeah, all of this is a black box. And so now you have this situation where the military is coming out saying, yes, those videos are real. And we don't know what those things are. You have Congress asking military, saying, look, you need to explain to us what this is, because this will mean all sorts of new physics and everything else. What do you know of this?
And they're saying what?
And we're potentially getting congressional hearings on this very specific issue. Like, this is mind-blowing. When the military had to come out and own up to it and say, yeah, we're changing our policies. Well, implicit in changing your policies is you're changing them for real things. So the military coming out, that shouldn't have been too mind-blowing.
Right.
But it is. It is. So I am enamored by this story. I've done this story kind of once before, but you weren't here the last time. What do you think of the story? You and I, my wife and I, have had 2 UFO encounters. But she's only been aware of maybe one, and even then kind of out of it. And that one, we are at our apartment complex. We are walking to the car in the mornings because we were driving together. Something buzzes by. Small. It didn't look massive, maybe the size of a car, but it was round. And it jets by. And I said, babe, did you see it? You said, I think so.
I have no memory of this.
Are you serious? We're walking out. We're at the apartment complex over near where the pizzeria is. We're walking out to the car. Something zooms by. It's near the train tracks. It goes by extremely fast. And I said, babe, did you see that? I was like, babe, did you see that? You said, I think so. And I was like, it looked kind of X-shaped. And he was like, maybe. I think I saw something. But it went back too fast. You don't remember that at all? That's what I mean, man. Like, in both encounters.
I didn't think that that's the instance that you were going to bring up.
Well, the second one was Egypt. Where we're in Egypt. We're riding in the car. I'm looking at the star because I like to watch the sky. And I'm staring at a star. And I often do this thing of, like, if there's something there, if there's something in my thoughts, it's just something I used to do even when I was a kid. If I'm alone, and if I'm not alone in this room, flicker the light, those type of things, it freaks her out. Sometimes that shit works. But that particular day, I'm looking at one of the stars, and the thing blows up and go.
And I was there for this one too.
But it went behind. I was like, babe. But you remember that part?
The way he just screamed. That's the same way we were in the back of an Uber, I think, in Egypt, and I saw the light, but I did not see
it blow up
change.
Like that. Yeah.
I just saw a light, and then I was like, okay, and I started looking at something else. And
I'm like, babe, and then we go behind the building in the car, and I'm like, motherfucker,
like something happened,
because that's the second time. It's like every time, it never fails. Like, we were in Virginia Beach one time. No, we were in North Carolina, Outer Banks. We're in Outer Banks.
We were.
All of us are walking. It's kind of like this area that's almost like it's kind of like an island, but it's not entirely an island. But you're you're right by the beach and you're kind of isolated.
Like
we're
a
just
little peninsula.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Out there, and it was late at night.
Pitch black.
You, me, my brother, and my niece.
You could see the row full of stars because there was nothing like no like pollution.
And Jamal kept saying, "Did you see that? Did you see that?"
And
they were
shooting
like
stars.
4 of us out there, and we were like, "We don't."
Well, they weren't looking up at the sky. They were shooting stars.
Anything.
So they kept being this thing where they were shooting stars, and I kept thinking, I was like, is there some kind of anomaly? Like they were over and over again, and then her and her brother and I are sitting on the top patio. I think we're getting stoned or something, and we're just kind of looking out at the sky.
That's not true.
And I'm like, look at that. I was like, there's another one. I was like, and I realized none of you were looking up at the sky. None of you. Even after I said, oh wow, look at that. Nobody.
We were like, oh, because you said like it was a shooting star or something, and so we were like, oh, that's cool, and then we kept doing whatever we were doing.
I feel some kind of way that for whatever reason, you don't remember.
I have no memory of the first one at all.
That's amazing. I can't believe you don't have any memory of that. It hurts me.
I have heard that someone said elevate your consciousness and you'll be able to contact them. I have heard that if you are not trying to see them, or you can kind of like, I don't want to say think at them, but
like not think at them, like this thing of
there's a difference between you walking down, like if 2 of us are walking down the street and you are like, I want to see an alien spacecraft, and you're looking up and you say, okay,
I see.
You know what I mean? Like thinking at it kind of.
But I wasn't thinking.
I'm just kind of like walking, like maybe you're more open, and so that's why
I know in North Carolina
you get to see these things when the rest of us are like,
Well, in North Carolina, I wasn't thinking at anything. It was just kind of stuff shooting by. In Egypt, that was just random. I mean, like, you were just in a car with me. You said yourself that you saw the light on that front. So, at the very least, you saw something. Even if you didn't see the flip. So, it's not like you weren't there for those occasions. You were there for all of those occasions.
I guess that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that you are able to see things. Maybe you're hallucinating.
I don't think so. Because you said yourself. I mean, my issue is...
Maybe you're hallucinating
she doesn't remember this
you want
now.
It to happen.
No, she doesn't remember this now. But the first time it happened, she looked at, she was like, all right, I think I saw something. I just don't know what it was. Now, either both of us was hallucinating, or you were just being massively, easily influenced by somebody saying, hey, did you see that thing? And you just, for whatever reason, lied about it. That would also mean you were just kind of just making shit up in Egypt. And as for North Carolina, the North Carolina thing, we're just kind of walking around and shit was just flying out the sky. I don't know, man. I find this to be fascinating. I mean, it really is. And I don't quite understand why.
You know how people have a swear jar, and every time they swear, they have to put money in? You should have a fascinating jar.
I don't understand why this story isn't more profound than
Now, I do agree. Your certain level of enthusiasm kind of deadens me to enthusiastic events. So, like, if all the time everything is fascinating and you're, like, really, really like, oh, that's awesome, then things, when they happen like this, it's like, oh, okay, yeah.
But what does that have to do with you? Like, I understand me. They may deaden my perspective of what is fascinating based on whatever.
Because you're like, oh, this is fascinating. And I'm like, well, the last 25 things were fascinating, too. And so...
Fascinating to me.
I know that, but it kind of, like, projects onto like my level of.
So
I guess my thing is that I do think this is like a monumental thing.
So
I know why I am not like bouncing off the walls about it, because it's a conversation that you and I have all the time. But if I was Joe Schmo and saw this on TV where they're saying, okay, yes, this is legitimate, then I would have some questions at least.
I just think it's profound. I mean, your government has just come out and confirmed to you that our skies have something in it that we don't know what it is.
See, Lithium-19, perfect, says if everything is fascinating, then nothing is.
There are levels. There are levels. I don't think paper is fascinating. I mean, doesn't one disprove the absolute of it all? Clearly, if I don't think paper is fascinating, I don't think the mouse pad is fascinating. I don't even think my notebook is all that fascinating. Maybe something to do with the process of making it, but the moment that you get rid of one thing that's not fascinating, that kind of destroys this whole notion that everything is fascinating. Look, I would argue that there are certain levels of subjectivity associated with what is fascinating or not.
Right.
And this notion that everything's fascinating is being a little bit coy and easy with the wording and hyperbolic. Let me say it that way. The notion of talking about anything else and then adding in UFOs, the profundity goes out through the roof. And even if there was something else that was fascinating, the levels, clearly there's a difference between the level of fascination in one thing versus
another.
Aliens. Not even just another, just aliens. Because that fundamentally transforms our society. If scientists came out and said, you know what? This is a real thing. And they said, if it's real, how are they here? That right there. Like, think about what that means. If scientists of your planet say, all right, they're saying this is real. Okay, how do they get here? Have they been here all along? I mean, he's saying he's seeing some structure in the water. Like, all sorts of, oh, God, this is so...
Sounds like every alien movie that I've seen when they're like, well, you know, they've been here for a long time and now they're just revealing themselves or something.
Or tech has gotten to the point where we can see it. I don't know, man. I think this is profound, personally. And whatever you want to think, your government has just come out and confirmed the existence of something in our space that we have no idea what it is.
All right.
So.
It's
absolutely profound.
All right, so really quick, let's get caught up on Super Chats before we get into the real news. You need a shirt that says "Do the News." Maggie Smith, thank you. I'm going to try to project a little bit more, and we did turn the mic a little bit, so thank you for that. Jay Vell says they're co-opting to fake it because it is real.
You know, that's the other part, right? I mean, there's so many permutations of this that could be legit. You can have some that are real, some that are not. You can have none of these things that are real, and the government is using some kind of craft or something that affects some kind of technology. You can have it where it is legit and they're lying about what's taking place, meaning you're never getting the full story or the real story. There's always a certain degree of like, there's so much darkness to this. Like, and I don't mean that in a sense of like bad negative stuff. Yeah, I just mean that like opaque. Like, it's like we would have to believe that a government that lies constantly is being truthful on this issue. And the moment that you get politicians in it, do you believe that whatever the technology is, whatever they're talking about, even the foreign policy,
don't believe anything.
Do you believe that is going to be in your best interest, or just like any other scenario, in theirs? Yeah. So I mean, that fascinating. Yes. Glad that it's a real topic of discussion. Yes. By the same token, I don't know what it means, and that's the part that's exciting and terrifying.
Okay. JVL also said breakaway society planning fake contact for many years. All right, Jay Scott, I have your question, Jay Scott.
Justice for Jay.
Yeah, he did say justice for Jay. He said, and we will get to this when we get to that topic, but I'm going to call it out now. No, it's nothing bad. He says Warren is the establishment saying we can't stop the progressive movement.
That's true.
The progressive moment. Bernie leading.
That's true.
Let's co-opt it. Send in Pocahontas. #Justice for Jay.
That's true. That's everything he just said. There is true.
Okay.
Like in a flat fact. Absolutely.
Okay. We're gonna get to
because Biden is
don't do this
out
now because we gotta split the videos up.
Okay.
We'll get to that topic later. All right. We gotta stay on track. Okay. We still haven't even gotten to the first one.
I'm gonna just so I point out here. When Sanders did what she just did, they called him sexist. And so I'm going to say that it's a little bit like essentially womaning me down.
What?
You womaning me down. Like I was having a conversation and you was like, no, we're going to do this later. And it's like, all right, dog.
You mean I took control?
Womaning me down.
I don't know what that means. Woman me down. That doesn't even
Isn't
make
it
any
some
sense.
correlation with man me down or something like that?
There's no man me down.
Woman up. I don't
man
know.
Up.
Woman up
is not. It's not man down.
There's no woman.
And there's talking like somebody got shot, and then there is a man down. But there is no man down.
All right, I thought it was like a woman me down or something like that.
No, Burnman23 says womansplained, but that's
that's it. Womansplained.
You're talking about mansplaining.
But I'm talking about more like just like bullying.
No.
Down. It's like no.
Evan Klein says cucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, We still haven't even gotten into the
Good.
first
No,
topic.
we're about to get into the first topic.
All right, if you are just joining us, thank you for joining us on our alternate day of contributor appreciation.
Yeah.
I'm joining. My name is Aisha, Mrs. Thomas, for today's show, and we appreciate you being here. If you are enjoying the content so far, even though we haven't gotten into the actual topics, give the video a thumbs up because that helps YouTube's funky little algorithm let people know that we are live so that they can come hang out with us as well. And
that disrupted you, didn't it?
It did, because I was wondering why you were cutting on volume while I was giving my spiel.
But when it's like, but you can see how like you're in a frame of consciousness and then it gets disturbed and it kind of throws you off. Like, that's why I think Lawrence O'Donnell flipped out like that, and even Bill O'Reilly flipped out like that. I can kind of see it.
He says, fuck it, we'll do it live.
Yeah, we're doing live. That video is the greatest thing on the planet.
Okay, we're not playing it now. All right, so so like I said before, we're going to get into the first topic.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be here all night.
Dude, goddamn news.
So, like we said before, this is contributor appreciation. So, once a week, Jamarl sets aside a show to address the topics and the things that you, as viewers, would like to hear. I said that like, how long have we been live?
I thought you just literally just said that.
No, I didn't.
Okay, my bad.
You literally weren't listening. All right, so before I was rudely interrupted for someone to mansplain to, no, that wasn't really mansplaining.
Just a question.
Anyways.
See, identity politics, dog.
Discombobulated now. We're going to get into the first topic, which was submitted by a patron because this is a contributor appreciation show. So the first topic, we're going to talk about the U.S. sending troops into Saudi Arabia. This specific question came from John Papantanakis. He says the U.S. is sending troops to Saudi Arabia for defensive purposes. Please discuss and comment on the possibility that they are being sent to die in a false flag attack as a pretext for all-out war.
So the picture that you're watching are the oil fields in Saudi Arabia on fire. Ultimately, Saudi Arabia has been running a murderous war over the past 4 years. Obama greenlit the war. Obama didn't want Saudi Arabia in disrupting his peace plans for the JCPOA. Obama understood it was going to be bloody and murderous and didn't think Saudis were going to have the capabilities in order to take it off, and he was right. However, he got his peace, his JCPOA, and Saudis got their war. Saudis have the third most expensive military in the world, if I'm not mistaken, and they have not been able to take down a band of supposed rebels. They have been running a murderous campaign for the last 4 years. Slaughter, outright massacres where they didn't necessarily care about the civilian casualties, be it kids, be it starving kids, women and children, across the board. They had no care for civilians. They had a flagrant disregard for civilians, not to mention the starving of people to death and the cholera epidemic. They weaponized disease and hunger to pursue their aims of pacifying this population and taking down the Houthis. They still haven't been able to do it. Houthis gets the technological capability to hit Iran, to hit Saudi Arabia. They're geniuses. They've been under pressure. And when they were under pressure, they were, working and they were coming together and it was like, oh, we figured out how to make this cruise missile. And they made that cruise missile and they fired that cruise missile into Saudi Arabia. Now, I'm assuming, I'm just going by what the Houthis are telling me, but they're upstanding folks. I don't see why there's any reason to disbelieve them in this case. Some people might say they didn't have the technological prowess to pull it off. However, Saudi Arabia didn't have the technological prowess to pull off their murderous campaign in Yemen either. And yet, the U.S. was willing to augment their capabilities. Why is it wrong for Iran to augment Houthis' capabilities? And augment they did because they took down 5% of the world's oil market. These flames is literally oil up in smoke. Now, Trump has taken a pressure campaign with this notion that we're going to squeeze Iran, pulls out the JCPOA, puts military in that region of the world, classifies the Iranian Revolutionary Guard as a terrorist organization, and ups and ratcheted sanctions to such a degree where people dying in Iran because they can't get access to food, drugs, medicines, and those type of things, and they have to be self-sufficient or work with some countries like China and Russia in regards to they may assist them in this point. Trump inexorably drove us to this situation that we have now. Whether he wanted a war or not is irrelevant. I've said this more than one occasion. What the president wants is subjected, is subordinate to political wins. Meaning, the moment that you put John Bolton in office, and the moment you ratchet up this campaign, you burned the moderates because you pulled out the JCPOA, meaning you have no capacity for a deal. So you have two options. Either to keep going, which will inexorably lead you to a war, because at some point you're going to lose the ability to continuously lose face legitimately. Or you go back to the JCPOA. There are not any two options beyond those two frames. There is no more moderates in order to talk to Trump. The Ayatollah has said it, the foreign minister has said it, and Rouhani said it. Everybody, for the most part, has said we have no capacity to talk to the United States unless they go back to the JCPOA, and they mean it. So what does Trump do now? A drone is shot down. Trump loses face. Somebody was being stupid. Everybody in his cabinet wanted him to strike. Trump saves face, or loses face, and says somebody was being stupid over there. And what do you have now? They take our ship, or we take their ship, they take our ship. And this, we're talking about Brits in this case, but the Brits are working at our behest.
Yeah.
And now you have this very specific situation where the Houthis gets their hands, at least going by what they're saying, on technology that allowed them to strike the oil fields, either with drones or with cruise missiles. Trump has to do something, right? I mean, after all, he's saying Iran is guilty of all of these crimes, which is the reason why he's had to go out and defend all of these shipping lanes and everything else. So he said Iran was sponsoring all of this terrorism and Iran was responsible for all of this. And so he has to do something. But Trump doesn't want a war. So what does Trump do? Well, I mean, I'm going to put really tough sanctions, and sometimes not attacking is a sign of strength. What he knows is that the moment that he strikes Iran, it is all-out war. Right. And you lose all agency in this process. Donald Trump's decision space is getting narrower and narrower and narrower because he can't continuously come with this excuse of, well, we're going to put more sanctions. At some point, you don't have any more sanctions, and whether or not the effectiveness of them or not becomes irrelevant. And at some point, the people in your cabinet are like, all right, you got to do something here. You've already took us to the brink. You keep coming down from the brink.
Right, and not to mention the people in his cabinet want
want a war, right. So you must understand where Trump is in this particular situation, whatever, and regardless of what Trump wants. Because of the policies he's taken, he's gotten us to this particular precipice. And either he's willing to step down and lose face, or not. And it's the or not that's the problem. The United States is sending military personnel to Saudi Arabia, supposedly for defensive purposes to bolster Saudi's armaments.
Can I interject?
Go for it.
Because if you guys didn't know, then I'm looking down, I'm reading the comments. And the same thing that I was thinking, I've seen Edward Klein and somebody else think as well. Who attacked us in 9/11?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was Saudis. I mean, like, all of this is extraordinary.
It's hilarious. The world that we live in, where U.S. troops are being ordered to protect the people who attacked us on 9/11.
Yes. Isn't that bizarre? And yet, that's where we are. Saudis have been spreading Wahhabism, essentially terrorism, all throughout the globe. Hillary Clinton, despite taking the money, has even owned up to such in her emails, in her WikiLeaks emails, saying that these guys spread terrorism throughout the globe. Tulsi Gabbard has went to war on this very specific point of we should not be supporting terrorists like this by backing up this totalitarian religious maniac country that still chops off heads and put them on pikes. Literally. These guys still engage in crucifixion. Yeah. There was an ad in the newspaper in Saudi Arabia for a head chopper. Seriously. They didn't call it head chopper, they called it something else. But
something a little smoother than that,
yeah,
probably.
But technically he's a government worker. Chopping heads for a living. My point is this. We're sending troops and personnel. Every war that the United States has ever engaged in has been for defensive purposes. If you ask people in the United States that engaged in those wars, yeah, it's always defensive. It's even the Department of Defense. When has it been really in earnest, Department of Defense? I have qualms with this because I can't trust the word that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth on this stuff. And I don't trust necessarily the military's take on this stuff either. This is not Iran's fault. And Iran saying there will be all-out war if they're attacked. The press ran with that like that was something major. What country doesn't declare, what country allows you to attack them without response?
Right.
Like, I don't know. Can you imagine the United States being attacked and it's like, all right, we're just going to let that ride? We, people in this country, were saying that a cyber hack that didn't exist, talking about the Russians, was equivalent to an attack of Pearl Harbor. We're talking about Facebook and Twitter ads. And,
We're not getting into the Russia thing.
I guess my point is we're talking about Facebook and Twitter ads where the United States has been so reactive. And yet, so we're sending troops over for defensive purposes. Take a look at this. I guess my point is no country would allow themselves to be attacked that way.
Do you think that they are being sent to die?
No. Well, so it depends, right? I mean,
as a pretext for war.
So it depends.
That was the question from John Pepentanakis.
No, I understand. It depends. I mean, I don't think Trump wants a war. But every time Trump gets to a position of saying we're going to pull troops out of Afghanistan, we're going to do this or that, there's always something that goes off that forces his hand to get closer and closer to some kind of precipice.
He's got to do something
which
to save face.
Which is why he says sanctions. But at a certain point, you can't keep doing sanctions. And he's inching his way to a brink where he can't step down from. And by the way, whether Iran gave these guys the missiles or not, they have been running a murderous campaign that nobody cared about, but now everybody cares about because they hit the oil. Saudi Arabia should be able to deal with their own affairs. It's none of our business. But the U.S. is sending for defensive purposes. Now, the interesting thing here is that Saudi Arabia is loaded up with U.S. weapons already. Why do they need additional weapons to defend their territory? And what does it say about U.S. weapons if they need additional weapons? Or what does it say about Saudi's ability to use those weapons? Which is why they need U.S. logistics in order to even make that campaign in Yemen successful or applicable. Meaning they need us. Like, we've been raging a murderous campaign. And the notion that we're going to turn around and attack Iran or even threaten Iran for something that is between Saudi Arabia and Houthis, yeah, I don't think the country is not on board for that. And like en masse, the country is not on board for that.
Right.
So thank God for that.
All right, hold on.
Wait, just one last point. About the whole thing being sent to die. I don't think personnel will be knowingly sent to die. I don't think that's the case. Like, I don't think somebody says, okay, we're going to send these guys over there to knowingly die. I don't trust Saudi Arabia, nor do I trust Israel in this process. Well, both actors want to fight to the last dead American. And because both want to fight to the last dead American, I think there's every incentive in the world to behave in untoward ways.
I have an interjection for Super Chat.
Untoward.
Because that's actually what they're talking about in the Super Chat. Katoshi Nakamoto says, Israeli government officials also knew about 9/11. Xavier Foster then says, Iran, get back in the deal or it's all-out war.
Yes. There's no alternative. I mean, because think about it for the moment. When Trump pulls out the JCPOA, he burns the moderates. So people like Rouhani, who's pushing for this deal and everything else, the Ayatollah allows the deal to go through. The moment you get out the deal and you start attacking the country, well, Iran stayed with the deal for an entire year. And work with the European Union and its allies. Right now, they've taken a strategy of putting pressure on the EU to back them. And they said, fine, we've been in this deal for a year. These sanctions are crippling to our society. We are not going to stay in line with this deal if the United States is not going to stick with the deal. Why should they? Imagine a situation where you go to work and your employer doesn't pay you and they say, you know what, we've decided to not stick with this deal, but we still want you to go to work.
Yeah.
That doesn't fly, and yet they stuck with the deal nonetheless. And then when they pulled out of the deal, the EU bitched and moaned about it as if it was their fault. The EU needs to back Iran in this. It doesn't matter what you think about the Iranian government. And if you notice, I haven't said anything about the Iranian government because it's irrelevant to this conversation. We have taken aggressive action in pursuit of either changing the government of that country or outright war. Bolton was okay with either of those scenarios. And he was in that position to drag Trump over and over, closer and closer and closer with this notion of pressure. Well, at some point, the pressure has to go somewhere. We used to say pressure bust pipes when we used to play chess. We used to say pressure bust pipes. Because when we were playing chess, well, think about it. It's a pressure strategy.
I know that, but that
pressure
is a
to
very
what end?
well-known saying.
Pressure bust pipes?
Who used to say that?
At the barbershop.
I think that was said outside the barbershop, too.
I don't think you've ever heard that saying before up to this point. Like, I would wager that this is probably the first time you've ever heard the statement of you're just being contrary. Or you just heard me say it earlier.
No.
And your subconscious is bringing it back in.
No, it's a music reference. It's a reference that I've heard in rap music. I'm literally trying to Google so I can shut you down because that's not true. You think that it was just a cute little saying that you were saying in...
What year that came out?
Hold on. Go ahead.
2016.
No, that's an old one. It was pressure bust pipes. That's 2014.
Yeah, I'm talking about stuff in the 80s.
Old. Okay, that's back in 2012.
I'm talking about the 80s, dog.
You weren't playing no chess in no 80s.
Okay, the 90s. I'm talking about the 90s. I graduated in 95.
Let me find an old one. Somebody
and I might have been playing at 89.
John Hill says Jay-Z, yes.
But Jay-Z, that's in the 2000s.
Pressure best pipes. No. Okay, we'll get back to that. But no, you did not make that up in your barbershop, is what I'm saying.
Oh, I didn't make it up. The barbershop people used to say it before I got there. But that's where it came from. All these other people just took it from them.
They didn't make that up in your barbershop. Is what I'm saying. Okay.
All
right, can we move on
my point
to the
is
next?
pressure bust pipes, and at some point that has to go somewhere. He can't keep trying to save face and keep stepping down from the brake. Media is continuously asking him, are you going to strike Iran? Are you going to strike Iran? Because he's inextricably led to this particular point. And anything that happens now is, are you going to strike Iran? Are you going to strike Iran? All of this is Trump's fault. I don't trust Iran. I don't trust Israel. I don't trust Saudi Arabia. And both of them want the U.S. to be engaged into a larger conflict to deal with the issue of Iran. And so, no, I don't trust them in either case. Will we knowingly send personnel there to be engaged in something like that? I don't think so. I mean, I know under some of the stuff the CIA was doing at the time was pretty nasty, but I don't necessarily think so. But does that necessarily mean that other actors involved in the process won't be thinking in those terms? Right. No, that doesn't mean that at all. Doesn't mean it at all. Right now, they accuse Iran of this without any real, stick-to-it of evidence of sorts. It's more so they just don't think the Houthis can do it. Well, they don't really know that. And seeing as this is a country of weapons of mass destruction, and that both of these guys, Israel and Saudi Arabia, are biased actors in regards to what they want to do in regards to the policies in that region, no, they shouldn't be trusted. They shouldn't be trusted. But no, I don't think they're just sending them there to die.
Intentionally.
No.
Okay.
I mean, I honestly don't think Trump wants a war.
Were they sending them there to die?
Like a false flag.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
But the false flag it might not be from us. Like, it could be from the countries in the region to drag the U.S. into a war. Like, because imagine for the moment if one of the personnel get hit. Let's say the Houthis fire a missile strike. It kills American personnel. What happens? You think that that's just something they're going to let it ride? And if they say Iran is responsible for it, then what? Is that something they're going to let ride? They're not. They're not going to let it ride. I mean, this is putting troops in this region of the world with the volatility associated with this could literally drag the U.S. into a larger conflict. I mean, think about how we got into Vietnam. It was this kind of slow, we're just here for defensive purposes. We're just here to teach the population. We're just here for this and that. And all of a sudden, the U.S. is fighting a full-blown war. The same thing could happen here. I've been saying this for 2 years. And this is Trump's
citizens and our interest in the region. And the international community has a responsibility to protect the global economy and international rules and norms. All of this is threatened by Iran's significant escalation of violence. This week, I've been in dialogue with the Saudi defense minister and other partners about this latest attack. To prevent further escalation, Saudi Arabia requested international support to help protect the kingdom's critical infrastructure. The United Arab Emirates has...
Think about what's being said here. Trump pulls out the JCPOA. Trump ratchets up sanctions. Trump declares their military to be a terrorist organization. Trump sends military personnel to that region of the world. And he turns around in this video says, yeah, Iran keeps escalating. Yes, to answer your question, it is possible that we can get dragged into a larger war, and this inching us closer and closer and closer. It only takes one action. I would almost wager to you that Donald Trump, in his wildest dreams, never thought this would take place. Which means that there are all sorts of things that can take place that can drag the United States closer and closer to war. Right. And again, those things go beyond the president's wishes. Political whims and political wins oftentimes go beyond what the president wants. So, I hope that answers, or my best shot at trying to answer that.
Sweet.
So, let's talk about Yang for a moment. Go for it.
I want to read, this is another one from a contributor appreciation.
Okay.
He says, He's an Andrew Yang supporter. Could you stop doing that? That's right.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that other part. I was trying to get it closer to you so you can speak into the mic.
Speak into the mic. Yeah. Glad to see you offer a relatively more fair take on him, Andrew Yang, than most other progressive independent media. You should look more at his policies, his one focusing on journalism in particular. But anyway, speaking of journalism, I think your take on his response, Andrew Yang, to the Assange situation is a little off. I'll tell you why and hopefully get to see your response.
All right, so let's take a look at Yang's response to Assange. Somebody asked Yang about prosecution, or I would even argue persecution, of one Julian Assange. My argument is that Assange is a journalist. He's a publisher. He gets information, he publishes that information. Governments hate him doing so because the information tends to pull the covers over things that the government is doing that it doesn't want the public to know about. The United States has been on a campaign to put Assange in prison, and depending on who you talk to, maybe even have him shot or hung. I think that is dramatically problematic, and the fact that even Rachel Maddow and Chuck Todd have come out saying, okay, yeah, this is a problem. It's not because they love Yang, it's because they realize that these charges, these espionage charges, will put them also on the hook for litigation. Assange, facing trial for this, puts all media up for potential charges if they are dealing with whistleblower material. Take a look at this. This was the question that was asked to Yang.
Do you support Julian Assange?
I think Julian Assange should stand trial. I am generally pro whistleblower and pro people that try and call out bad behaviors. But in that particular case, he did end up disclosing some information that really had no useful purpose except for potential damage to our infrastructure, like the undersea cables location and some other things. So I certainly would not be in favor of I think he should stand trial.
Thank you.
No problem.
So his thing is, I think he should stand trial. I don't think he's done anything wrong. Yeah.
He said, well, I'm usually for whistleblowers.
Yeah, but not in this case.
But not today.
And it's like, I don't know what he is talking about, but I disagree with that position entirely. Like, I don't think Assange should stand trial. He's not even an American citizen. And yes, I suppose you could have outlaws to supposedly reach out to the United States. But if our laws reach out to people from the United States, shouldn't also have protections? Meaning, if we are going to reach our hand from the United States to literally drag Assange back to face charges under our laws, shouldn't the protections that those laws also offer extend to Assange? And beyond that point, Assange released factually true information. Always. There's been no situation where Assange has released anything that was false, and he was doing his job. He was a publisher. I fundamentally disagree with this notion that Assange should be
stand trial?
Yeah, should stand trial.
For what?
I get that the government, and this is part of the reason why Obama didn't do it. Like, there's a reason why Obama was sketchy about this, because he was concerned about the espionage laws and how that would affect our media.
But how did Obama feel about it?
He didn't like Assange at all.
Right,
I mean,
that's what I'm saying, but
he hated him, but there were certain things places that he wasn't willing to go. And then you deal with Trump, where Trump was literally using WikiLeaks to attack Hillary Clinton during the race, and now he's letting these dogs of war to go after Assange and try to drag him back to the country. I disagree with that. I mean, because if Assange has to stand trial, that means Chelsea Manning also, the squeezing of Manning to some degree is legitimized if Assange has to stand trial. Like, all of those things kind of work in tandem with one another. Right now, Chelsea Manning is literally being charged $1,000 a day and is essentially kept in prison as a torture with this notion that she'll crack eventually, and because she'll crack eventually, we'll be able to keep her in for as long as it takes her to crack. Or as long as the judge believes that there is a potential for her to crack. Think about that for a moment. You can't keep somebody in prison flagrantly. However, you can keep them in prison if you believe they'll crack. How would you know whether or not this individual will crack?
That's interesting.
I mean, it's essentially a loophole that allows you to essentially torture somebody in the prison system. In order for this case to go through, that's legitimate. And I don't think this is legitimate at all. I mean, this is a whistleblower that released information showing our helicopter pilots murdering reporters, Reuters agents. The person didn't even know who they were shooting.
Xavier Foster says, dude, WikiLeaks also was exposing the Iran deal.
Was it? What do you mean? I don't understand the question.
That's the super chat from Xavier Foster.
I don't know what that means.
Says WikiLeaks also was exposing the Iran deal.
I don't quite know what that means. But I mean, I would say this. I love WikiLeaks. I think Julian Assange is doing God's work. I don't want to see him in prison, nor do I think this prosecution of him has been legitimate. He tried to get he tried to get asylum. And that's the whole reason he went into the Ecuadorian court. Is Yang saying that asylum claim was illegitimate or irrelevant? I mean, to some degree, all that has to be coming into play. If what Yang is saying here, meaning that he should be prosecuted, is true, I don't think he should be prosecuted.
Now, the question from Ant, the person who submitted the topic suggestion, well, not the question, but the statement that he made was, you should take a look at his other policies. But when you and I were having the conversation beforehand, it kind of boiled down to...
It's irrelevant.
They don't matter. Like, if this is kind of... What do you say? Like, this is a hill you're willing to die on?
Well, yeah, with the hill I'm willing to die on.
Willing to die on.
I guess
like, it doesn't matter. If this is his standpoint on Assange...
I mean, there's several issues I have with Yang. I mean, I do think that it will dismantle welfare. At the very least, welfare as we know it. I also think... Not just think, Yang's policy on Palestine is utterly atrocious. I mean, I've heard him talk about this stuff. I mean, I understand he's the Asian man that wants to give people money, but there's a little bit more to the Asian man that wants to give people money. I like Yang. I don't dislike him, so I don't want there to be any kind of thing like that. I like the notion that he's in a race because he's talking about this stuff in an interesting way, and it forces people to respond to something that is unique in the Democratic field. I think that's a positive, so don't misunderstand me. I would never vote for him, not in a million years. And, you know, Yang could be just as comfortable running in a libertarian race. I mean, honestly. I mean, I'm just saying, I don't dislike him. By the same token, I would never vote for him. And, you know, I disagree with him entirely on this notion of Assange. That's not the entirety of my reasoning for not voting for Yang. I don't want you to misunderstand me.
Okay.
But I think that position is a fail for me. But that's just for me. Somebody else might be like, yeah, I think Assange should serve trial, so I'm okay with, with the persecution. I don't think that.
All right, so we're going to move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's do labor. Let's hop across the pond.
All right, so this one also was a suggestion on the Patreon platform. This one came from John Michael Fears. He says the UK Labour Party just had their annual conference this weekend and announced their plans for pretty much everything they would want to accomplish if they were elected in the inevitable coming election.
Yeah.
Could you explain your thoughts on these announcements, including how you think people will react so far as polling, and if you think this is a step in the right direction for Jeremy Corbyn and Labour? And
no, the position is ludicrous. The position makes no sense.
And he says, how can Bernie Sanders pull something similar off here in the United States?
Look, there are a lot of... If you were just talking about domestic policy, Jeremy Corbyn is on point. Love Corbyn. And I've loved Corbyn from the entirety of this show. There are all sorts of videos where I'm like screaming, Jeremy Corbyn, polling and everything else. And I was one of those people who said Jeremy Corbyn was going to be Prime Minister of the UK. And it did look like, up to this point, he was. It doesn't look like that anymore. I watched Labour's conference. This is Labour's conference. Whatever Labour brings up, meaning the stuff they want to talk about in the race, this race is going to boil down to one thing. Brexit. If you have an election when Brexit hasn't been settled, this race will be about one thing. Brexit. What are you going to do about Brexit? What are you going to do about Brexit? And I have to be honest, what Labour came up with as a position on Brexit makes no sense, and yet they're pushing this entirely. So let me explain to you what I mean. So I'm not even going to go into Labour's policies, because if they have an election, that's not what it's going to be. It's going to be on Brexit. The Boris Johnson is going to make this entire election about Brexit. That's the only thing this election is going to be about if they have an election. Labour has awesome policies, even like worker co-ops, allowing workers to get 50% or like 40-something% of the company that they're working for, appropriating industries like railroads or energy sectors, dealing with this notion of like the Green New Deal. Like Labour has amazing policy positions in regards to what you want in the country. I mean, I was listening to the stuff today where they were like, how much would you pay people if you appropriate their property from the standpoint of like the rail lines and that type of stuff. Yeah. So no issue with that part. Brexit. The issue is Brexit. This is the Labour conference. Listen to what takes place here. This is kind of part and parcel to the problem. They say, don't tell me, show me. Let's show you.
That's the sound of a party deciding on a policy and rallying around its leader. Labour is not a party of remain, but a party of wait and see. They now have a policy, but no signs of any rifts being healed. This is how close the vote was.
Thank you, and all those against.
Close enough to cause a little confusion.
Sorry, I thought it was one way, and Jenny said something else, so...
It is lost, yeah.
Yes, that was lost.
And this was the angry reaction.
Conference, this is one of the most important decisions that the Labour Party will take this decade, and I think we deserve a card vote here.
She didn't get her second vote, and policy was set.
It's an utter disgrace that we weren't given a...
People were pissed off. Labour, a lot of these guys are Remainers, especially in the standpoint of government and in the standpoint of Jeremy Corbyn's, even his own cabinet. Many of these guys are Remainers. Jeremy Corbyn had taken a position on Brexit that he was going to deliver Brexit. And now he's taken a position of, I'm just going to be above it all and just kind of let stuff go and let my party make decisions on it. Seriously. Labour's strategy, their plan, if they win the election, meaning if an election is called, if they win that election, is to go to Brussels, try to get a deal. Now, they've said we're not leaving here without a deal, so they will have to pretty much accept anything that the European Union give them. Yeah. And then go out and take that to the public for a vote, meaning not only are they going to have an election, the election itself should be the thing that makes the decision on what Brexit plan gets pushed through, because at that point, you're putting the party in to enact Brexit. But they're not doing that. They're saying, all right, even if we win an election, we will go to Brussels, we will get a deal, and again, we got to pretty much accept anything to give me, and then we will take this to the public for a vote. And the cabinet, many Labour, our Remainers, will vote against their own deal. I didn't stutter. The look on your face is right. It makes no sense. But it is what their Labour is talking about doing. Jeremy Corbyn, let's say if he wins an election, his delegation goes to Brussels. They negotiate a deal. He's already said that I am not leaving here without a deal. So there is no capacity for no deal Brexit under Corbyn. There's no capacity to walk, which means that Corbyn, to some degree, has to accept whatever you give him because Corbyn has just said he's not leaving there without a deal. Right, he has to take anything. Now, I understand why he did it. He did it because he wanted to tie up Boris Johnson. But now he's tied himself up to some degree because there will have to be a general election and you are probably going to have to live up to your own standards. Yeah. Many of the people who are around Corbyn, despite Corbyn being a Eurosceptic, are Remainers, which means that the moment that Labour gets in office and the moment that Labour goes to negotiate a deal, they're going to put that deal up to the public and they are going to vote against their own deal. And Europe is like, why the hell are you guys even coming here to talk to us? And Europe is realizing, okay, we bet on the wrong horse. Honestly, that's their Brexit strategy. I've watched people in the UK say, I can't support Labour like this. Like staunch Labour supporters that have been Labour supporters forever saying, I can't support him like this. Their Brexit strategy is sitting on the fence. You heard them. Boris Johnson wants to leave. Labour wants to wait and see. And the Lib Democrats are in this thing of we don't care what the public says from the standpoint of the referendum. We want to stay. Listen to a little bit more of this video because I want you to see this one part. And then I'm going to pop over to Boris Johnson and his dilemma. Because Boris Johnson is not in any better of a position than Labour and Jeremy Corbyn. Maybe a little bit better, just in the sense that people know what they want.
A proper say in the most democratic way possible. And yeah, I'm ashamed of the party today.
What we've just done is vote to become third place behind the Lib Dems. Very sensible.
Earlier in the day.
Right there. Did you hear him? He said, we just voted to become third place behind the Lib Dems. Yeah. Because the Lib Dems essentially said, we want to leave. We want to stay, period. We don't care what the public wants. We want to stay. If they vote us in office, we are going to put through legislation to get rid of Article 50 because we want to stay. That's Lib Dem's position. It's clear. It's understood. Everybody knows it. Boris Johnson's position. We want to leave. That's what we want to do. We don't give a shit what happens. I'm a gorilla man. I've ripped my shirt off. We're leaving on the 31st. That's Boris Johnson's position. So if you're the public, you know what Boris Johnson's position is. You know what Lib Dem's position is. What about Labour's? And how do you explain that? Like, if you have to take so many words to explain that, you've lost people to some degree, because it's like, what? And I'm saying this is somebody who loves Corbyn. I love the guy. And yet, I listen to this, and this position makes no sense.
Xavier Foster said Boris Johnson will just be waiting things out. It's just a matter of time now. That's what the guy said in the video. It's a party of wait and see now.
So listen to, well, Boris Johnson is in a fix himself. So the politics that has screwed Labour has also screwed Boris Johnson. Now, this is raw politics. This is also politics. Like, this is politics at a scale that is just, like, elegant. Even though it's like you're in a knife fight and you're doing karate and you're like, fuck, my bishop is have a bad bishop. But I need that bishop right there because I need to hold him to that position, and I don't want him to move, because if he can move his arm, he can get his hands on me. Like, it's that type of stuff. You put yourself in somewhat of a bad position in order to keep the other guy in a bad position. You know. So Boris Johnson, so Labour says, all right, we're going to have a referendum, because whatever Boris Johnson comes up with, we want to put to a vote, and Boris Johnson should put to a vote. That means Labour is stuck with that themselves. Labour has said also, you are not going to leave here with a no-deal Brexit. There's no capacity for no-deal Brexit, meaning whatever you get, you got to bring it back to Parliament, which means that Corbyn is also stuck with that himself. Now, it's beautiful politics if you want to wrap up your opponent. He did.
Yeah.
Boris Johnson now is in a position where, by law, he is being told to sign on the line to beg the European Union for an extension. Something that Boris Johnson said under no circumstances, while there was breath in his body, while he was on this plane of existence, he would ever do. And right now, he has still not said how he's getting out of this. Because Boris Johnson, they keep asking him, are you going to break the law?
Didn't they do a video asking him that?
Right here.
Do you have that clip?
It's right
that
here.
One was
pretty good. This clip was awesome. Listen to Boris Johnson try to explain how he's not going to break the law, but by the same token, he's not going to ask for an extension. Now, what's wrong with that statement? He is not going to break the law, but he's also not going to ask for an extension.
What is asking for an extension?
Essentially asking to extend the Brexit deadline. They're not mutually exclusive. Both of them are in tandem with one another. You can't have it both ways. By law, he is told to go and get an extension. Boris Johnson said he would never under any circumstances do that. And they're asking him, if you're not going to do that and you're leaving on the 31st, then how are you not breaking the law if you do that?
Let's see what he said.
So listen to this.
The dance that he
Watch
does.
the dance. You're going to love the dance.
What we're going to do is ensure that the UK comes out of the EU on October the 31st, with or without a deal. And I think it's very important for people to understand that we will not extend. And I've made that point several times.
Those two things are not compatible. This law requires you to sign a letter, as you well know, if you haven't got a deal, requesting a delay. You're not ready to do that. You will not sign that letter, is what you say.
What I'm saying is that we will obey the law, but we will also ensure that we come out of the EU on October the 31st. And
those two things are not necessarily compatible.
Well,
They've put you into a corner with
people of this
thing.
country. That's what the people of our country, I'd say, not this country, we're in America now. That's what the people of...
a lot of people would say it's no longer do or die, your old phrase. It's deal or die, because this kills you politically if you haven't got a deal.
It does.
Right?
No, he's right. It does.
True is that the so-called surrender bill that you're holding, the Surrender Act, has confused our friends and partners, and its intention plainly was to undermine the UK's ability to negotiate, and its intention was plainly to take away the option of leaving without a deal. But what
That's true, by the way. I mean, that was the whole point that Corbyn was going about it. By the same token, your whole point in proroguing Parliament was to keep Parliament from out of the process. So, let's just be clear what we're talking about.
We're going to obey the law, but we're going to make sure that without extending, we come out of the EU.
I can't see your hand. Have you got your fingers crossed behind your back? Are you hoping that they won't allow a delay? You're going to ask your European partners to forbid a delay
I think what most
in Brexit?
People, we're working very hard to get a deal.
But are you going to ask them for that?
We're working very hard to get a deal. And as you rightly say, Gary, the intention of the Surrender Act was to make a deal more difficult by undermining.
I don't think I did say that.
By
but
undermining our negotiating
What if the
ability.
Cabinet Secretary signed this? Would
that is clearly something that we have to take in our stride, but get on with securing a deal.
Could someone
He's not touching that answer. Like, he's the reporter keeps asking him over and over again. He's like, well, I mean, we're going to obey the law. Okay, well, yeah, but if you obey the law, you're going to sign it. We're going to obey the law, but we're leaving on the 31st. Yeah, but those things aren't compatible. Well, we will do what we will, to do the best for the British people, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, but wait. Are you going to beg them on bended knee for a deal or not? And he's like, no, we're leaving on 31st. Okay, so you're going to break the law. No, we're going to follow the law. And it's like, you can't have it both ways. So he has something up his sleeve. Boris Johnson has to have something up his sleeve in order to make this work. Because otherwise, he's going to flagrantly break the law, which I don't think he's going to do, which means he has something up his sleeve. I don't know if he will resign. I don't know if he'll get somebody to call a no confidence vote and force a general election.
We have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. Fascinating politics. But understand, both have problems in this process. Boris Johnson is tied in knots. Jeremy Corbyn is tied himself in knots. And between the two, the position of people of a fence sitter just doesn't float all that well.
Victor Surge says this guy waves fish around at everyone.
Who are you talking about? Johnson?
Was waving. Yeah.
Yeah, the way he's moving his arms.
He's a grifter extraordinaire.
He's a dangerous politician also.
They said he was a good politician. Somebody else mentioned he's a good politician.
Yes, he is. If you notice, when Boris Johnson got in office, what did he do? He started spending money. He turned the tap on. Labour's strongest argument was essentially, look, we need to do things that are for the best interest of the bottom share of the population and grow the country. Conservatives, pushing through austerity, has got considered to be the party of austerity, where the socialists is in the other party. So what does he do? He turns on the tap. Oh, we want to spend money on the police force and NHS and this and that. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Why didn't you have the money to spend like that before? You just instituted austerity. You just seem to be turning the tap on. Is this just for the election? Yes, that's entirely just for an election that he knows is coming up. He needs to change the image of the Conservative Party. He's a dangerous politician. I said that almost like a year ago. I said, well, that's not true. Maybe 5 months ago. A while ago. When he was running against Hunt, my thing was Hunt has a charisma of like a wet napkin. Like he's no charisma. Between the two, Corbyn would beat Hunt. Johnson is more dangerous. Johnson's more dangerous. And I'm sorry, the polling right now is showing that Johnson is in lead by like 10, 15 points. Like it is not a good... This is not a situation where Jeremy Corbyn wants to have an election at this very moment. Let's say it that way. And I've even heard people make the argument that you have the election after Brexit. Because this notion that Brexit is out of the way, you don't have this polarizing issue, and you can get into...
That is the only issue right now.
Right, but if you give Boris Johnson Brexit, how do you know he's going to give you an election after? You can make an argument that says, well, wait a minute, Parliament can't function in the way it is because nobody has this kind of majority. But at that point, Boris Johnson might not even give you the election in the way that you were able to get the election beforehand. I don't know, man. What's taking place in the UK right now is fascinating. And that's just to put it mildly. Put it mildly. I want to talk about the Trump whistleblower scandal.
You skipped one.
Skip one, yeah. But I want to talk about that one while my powers are up. Go ahead, read it. Because this is not the only person who's taken issue with my perspective of this.
I haven't seen her on today. Is Trudy on today? So Trudy is... I know Trudy's name. If I know your name, then I feel like you're someone that's been around for a long time. Trudy's been hustling.
She's been here forever.
Soapbox for a while. So Trudy called Jamarl out for this week's topic. She said, Biden's and Trump's crimes. That's what she wants you to talk about. She says, you seem to be suffering cognitive dissonance when it comes to seeing Trump as the evil he is, when it is versus the Dems. It's like Stockholm Syndrome almost. Yes, mainstream media, DNC, and Clinton are evil, and it's good that she was not elected. But when Trump is also wrong, he's also wrong. And in this case, he's way wrong. An in-depth look at the events that led Trump to use his office to damage a political opponent. Very illegal. He says Biden also used his official capacity to get a prosecutor fired, but at least it was after the investigation was closed. Trump says he wants the investigation to continue, but what he really wants is for it to be reopened. I don't want to offend you, Jamal, but you've got to see that your filter is cloudy.
My filter is cloudy.
Trudy.
So let's accept for the moment that there is no such thing as absolute rationality, right? Like rationality is always stuck to objectives. Like what do you want to accomplish? And is whether or not what you're doing is rational in the context of what you want to accomplish. That's, there's no such thing as an absolute rationality. When they're looking at war games exercises, you may end up in a war, whereas a rational person would not, even though every step in that process might be of a rational actor. Like let's say Cuban Missile Crisis. In the Cuban Missile Crisis, you have a situation where John F. Kennedy and even Khrushchev takes rational actions. Those rational actions almost literally led us into the brink of a nuclear disaster. Rationality is not an absolute. That's the first point. My reason for saying that is this. I look at this stuff and I think to myself, what do I want to accomplish in the world? That's where I'm at. That's where I start. And what gets me from point A to point B in accomplishing those things in the world? Donald Trump, or let's say Joe Biden and the Democratic Party, literally, and let's start with Biden first. Biden fires a prosecutor that was going to be looking into his son's, or into the company that his son was working with.
Right.
They made him an executive of the board in the exact same month that Joe Biden started to work on the Ukrainian issue. The Ukrainian issue being that there was a coup in the Ukraine and there was a fledgling government, and Joe Biden used campaign aid money in order to threaten Ukrainian government to fire the prosecutor, leaving out the fact that his son was on the board of that company and was put on the board of that company. And you can make a clear case and say he was put on the board of the company because of Joe Biden. He had zero experience. He didn't have
the qualifications for that.
Zero experience in Ukrainian politics, or for that matter, Ukrainian oil and gas. So
I said the name of that company was
Burisma.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the company. So there's that. There's also information that came out when the media comes out and says, wait a minute, there's also a case of China where Joe Biden was in China. He brought his son with him, and his son ends up getting a ton of money for some kind of investment portfolio. I think it was like almost nearly $1 billion. And this is the media coming out with this. Mainstream media is like, okay, that also looks dodgy. It looks like there was a certain degree of corruption from the standpoint of Biden and his son and this other organization in China when Biden and his son come together, and Biden's son all of a sudden start getting all these contracts. Now, I look at this and I say, you know what, that looks problematic. It looks corrupt in the first point. On the second point, it looks to me as if Joe Biden was using his office in order to either punish enemies or protect his kinfolk. It looks corrupt. And Joe Biden's kid was paid, $166,000 a month for that, I think equaling up to like $3 million. That looks bad. That looks extremely bad. And understand, again, using the money, aid package, in order to threaten that government to fire a prosecutor, a state prosecutor that was put there at the auspices of the people within that particular country. Now, personally, I think that's horrible. Now, they hit Trump because there's a whistleblower that wasn't even first party to the information, but apparently the whistleblower say he heard rumors of sorts that Donald Trump was browbeating the Ukrainian government in order to release information on apparently his son and what took place in 2016 to damage his campaign, meaning leaking information from Manafort.
Right.
Now, people have been taking the piss out of me saying I'm taking a right-wing framing of this. I'm taking an honest framing of this. If Donald Trump was contacting, 2 points. The video or the information coming out saying that the DNC had an operative in the Ukrainian embassy that was working with the Ukrainian government to illegally release information to hit Trump in 2016. That's true, by the way. That's a flat fact true. The embassy came out in order to try to tank the election by releasing information to hurt Manafort with this notion of getting congressional hearings and those type of things to hurt Trump. That's one point. On the second point, you have Joe Biden dealing with the submissive Ukrainian government that gets that Ukrainian government literally holds an aid package over their head to get them to fire a prosecutor. What's wrong with the scenario? In both of these cases, you have a submissive Ukrainian government that was working with the DNC in order to hurt Trump in the 2016 election. That's true. That's not me making that up. That's just true. Now, you can say Trump is an ogre. Yes. You can say he's racist. Yes. You can say he's sexist and bigoted, all that stuff. I would agree with you on all that point. You can say he's corrupt. Yes. However, that doesn't change any of what I just said that the media entirely ignored and didn't care anything about. Now, when I look at this, I think it's massively selective justice to look at what Trump did and complain about it. Whereas you're looking at what Biden did and you're okay with it. Like, because understand, Trump, at the very least, has some level of leeway to do this investigation. The Democratic Party did not. Like, because Trudy, listen to what Giuliani said. I understand he's hard to listen to, but listen to him. The first comment that he makes when he's talking to Cuomo, we're looking into a potential malfeasance within that election in 2016 that was used to hurt my client. That's what we're looking for. Now, yes, they were going to use this for opposition research to hit it, but the catch here is it true? The answer is yes, it is true. That the Democratic Party was working with elements in the Ukrainian government to hurt Trump and to release information on Manafort. That's true. That's a flat fact true. Joe Biden did hold the aid package over Ukraine's head in order to get Ukraine to fire a prosecutor that was looking to accompany with his son. That is also true. Both of those cases are massive fails in regards to any level of malfeasance. Now, we go to what Trump did. Trump is pressuring the Ukrainian prime minister to release information on what took place in the 2016 election and potentially with Joe Biden's son. So what? What took place before legitimizes what is taking place now. It's one thing if there was no evidence that Joe Biden and the Democratic Party were working to hurt Trump in the 2016 election. There is evidence. There's massive evidence for it. So how is Trump wrong in asking for something that is a legitimate claim? Under that guideline, Obama would have never been able to prosecute Trump or would never been able to prosecute George Bush for the crimes of invading Iraq. I mean, think of what we're saying for the moment. Like, because Republicans would say, oh, this is a political persecution. No, you're a candidate. You're a political leader as president, invaded a country on a pretext of a lie and end up killing over 1 million people and having us in those countries to this day. So if Obama goes after Bush and prosecutes Bush for either torture or for invading a war, the Republican Party doesn't necessarily have leeway of saying, wait a minute, this is a political prosecution. There is fire to that smoke. I'm saying the same thing is true under the Obama administration. Regardless of what you want to think of Trump, in this very specific context, you have a Democratic Party working with a foreign government. The Democratic Party has howled about that, saying that Trump was working with the Russians. So I am not going to take a lesson from the Democratic Party on their working with the Ukraine, meaning they can't turn around and say that's not a big deal that we were working with the Ukraine in order to get information to hurt Manafort and the election with Trump. That is a party working with a foreign government to shirk one of the candidates. Why am I going to turn a blind eye to that, seeing that the Democratic Party has screamed that Trump was working with the Russians for the last 3 years? I guess my point is, Trudy, it's not that my objectiveness is thing. There is no such thing as objectivity. My perspective in this and the goal that I want to accomplish in this is I want real changes. And right now, the Democratic Party has gone down another conspiracy theory in order to hit Trump and has accidentally landed on something that hurts them. Meaning, if you're the Trump, you failed on all of your policies. All of your policies has failed. Name one that's been successful. He said he wasn't going to give a tax cut. He did. He said he was going to increase wages to $10 an hour. He didn't. He said he was going to look out for the middle class. He didn't. He said everybody was going to have big, beautiful health care. They do not. He tried to get rid of... Yeah, he tried to get rid of Obamacare. And 20 million people still were uninsured with Obamacare. So imagine what would have taken place with that. He said he was going to drain the swamp. And instead he put Betsy DeVos, he put actual swamp monsters in positions of authority. Whereas the WikiLeaks said that Obama was being pushed by Citigroup, meaning the banks, for that they were sent by. Trump literally just put those people in offices. Like, this is the difference between Obama putting somebody in that was chosen by a billionaire as opposed to a billionaire just being put in the office.
Just cut out the middleman.
Just cut out the middleman. Like, Trump has failed on a cacophony of levels. I mean, even the farmers in Wisconsin. Trump won Wisconsin. He's not going to win it this time around. Think of all of the stuff we sell to China. China's 3 times our population. Well, Trump has just ended that, which means that those farmers that was producing all that stuff now can't find anybody to buy products in the bulk that they needed to sustain themselves. I guess I'm saying Trump has failed all the way across the board. And what they talk about, Trump and Russia, and now they're talking about this quote-unquote whistleblower story for something that Biden not just did, but that the Democratic Party was working with the Ukrainian government to even hurt, meaning the story itself that they're bringing out, talking about the Ukrainian thing, raises the story of Biden, his son, and the Democratic Party and the Ukrainian government working to hurt Trump. Like, I hope you understand what I'm saying. Like, this becoming a story is not advantageous to Democrats. It's not beneficial at all.
Gardner says this is another bungled attempt to go after Trump.
It is. I mean, because now they're saying this is the thing that we have to impeach. And it's like, but you said you had that impeachment stuff over, like, They were going to impeach him over a tweet. They were going to impeach him over Charlottesville. They were going to impeach him for being racist. They were going to impeach him for obstruction of justice. Now, what justice? Supposedly, the case was whether Trump was coordinated with the Russians. He wasn't. And they still say we're going to get him on an ancillary charge that had nothing to entirely do with the original charge. And now we have a whistleblower that is essentially saying Trump was trying to get information out to the Ukrainians. Why? Because Joe Biden was working with the Ukrainians, and the organization that released the information from Manafort was an organization that Joe Biden was working intimately with and helped start. Do you know what happened to the case after Joe Biden nixed the prosecutor? It ended. It ended. Joe Biden's son was going to be held up for deposition. And whatever Joe Biden's motivations, Joe Biden did fire that guy. His son was making a ton of money as being part of the executive board. And the media didn't care about it at all. And again, whatever you want to care about the thing with Trump, there is a situation where the Democratic Party was working with the Ukrainian government. The Ukrainian embassy itself is owned up to such was taking place. And the company or the area, part of the government that Joe Biden was working with was part and parcel the area and the people that released the information on Manafort. My point is the DNC was intimately working with the Ukrainian government, and bringing this story up about Trump and the whistleblower thing hits the press with that in mass. And if you look up Trump whistleblower, what you're going to start seeing is a lot of stories about Joe Biden. And by the way, Joe Biden is terrified. Look at this. What do you see in this video that you don't see in many other Joe Biden's videos?
He's awake?
He's terrified. He's scared. I think he's scared.
I know Trump deserves to be investigated. He is violating every basic norm of a president. You should be asking him the question, why is he on the phone with a foreign leader, trying to intimidate a foreign leader, if that's what happened? That appears what happened. You should be looking at Trump. Trump's doing this because he knows I'll beat him like...
Look at this. Look at his face. He's scared. Him like pointing in the guy's face. Like he's like literally saying, no, you got to look at Trump. You got to look at Trump. I'll beat him like a drum. You got to look at Trump. You got to look at Trump. He's saying this like 1,000 times. And the catch here is, I think Biden is terrified of this story because I think what Biden knows, this is like the 5-finger death punch in Kill Bill. You hit him, he walks 5 steps and crook. I think that's what's happening. The media is now, it's like, well, wait a minute. Is there really something to that story? The president of the United States is a bully pulpit, and if he brings up anything, even if it's a lie, the media talks about it, which means that when I look at CBS and CBS News is bringing up the story about Joe Biden's son in China, I know that this has gotten some level of,
coverage. Is that
yeah.
Just real quick, Maggie Smith says he's pointing too. That's aggression.
Yeah.
I was gonna say after I said he was awake, he's on the defense.
Yeah, but that's my point. That's my point. If what the Democrats were doing here, meaning if the whistleblower story had the bullets in the gun, why is Joe Biden like this? I mean, look at what he's doing. He's pointing at the guy.
He is violating every basic norm of a president. You
Yeah.
should be asking him the question.
I think he's scared. I think Joe Biden looks at this and says, oh shit, there's a there there. Because there is a there there. His son was working at the company. His son was made an executive of the board at the exact same month that Joe Biden had taken over Ukrainian politics. Joe Biden was on a stage where he bragged using aid funding in order to get the prosecutor fired that was looking after his son's company and that was going to be investigating his son's company. The Ukraine did come out and say that the Ukrainian government illegally interceded into U.S. politics by releasing information on Manafort. And the Ukrainian embassy also came out and said that they were indeed working or had an operative from the Democratic Party. I guess I'm just making a point that the Democratic Party has screamed that Trump and Russia, great. But now we have something that's real. The Ukrainian government was working with the Democratic Party. Joe Biden knows that. Like, Joe Biden intersects all of this. The reason why Joe Biden is screaming, you got to look at Trump, you got to look at Trump, is because he knows. The moment that they start scratching at the surface of this and you start bringing up one corruption case after the next, it starts to look a little dicey.
Sorry.
No, what's wrong?
I'm reading the comments. VVN says, is Jamal a descendant of Corn Pop?
Do you know that story?
I do. That's why I started laughing out loud. That's funny. All right, so Uncle Brother real quick says, Jamal, what up, yo? He said, you got a new toy and now you a mic hog. He said, I was trying
to push it over.
He said he can't hear me.
Well, if you saw me earlier, I was like...
He said he's Aisha's #1 fan.
I was doing this and she was like...
It's difficult because it projects towards him and, like, it's hard because, It's on my boob if he does that.
Yeah, right. It's just like, it's on my boob. It's in my boob.
It's problematic. Xavier Foster says, Hunter worked with John Kerry's son and Bolger's nephew. Somebody said in the chat earlier when you were talking about he was making $166,000 a month, somebody said, don't worry, it was going all up his nose.
Well, that was the other part, right? Somebody kind of made the point that says, wait, did Joe Biden not play enough music for his kid when he was younger? Why didn't you stop your kid from going on crack, Joe? Like, that sounds brutal, though.
That's kind of rough.
That is rough, but Joe Biden just said that black folks don't know how to raise their kids. So, fuck Joe Biden. I mean, think about that for a moment. You have a kid, and Joe Biden, vice president, first African-American president, gets on stage in a debate.
Joe Biden, the first African-American president?
No. He was vice president for the first African-American president.
Okay. I was like...
And he gets on stage to a question about slavery and says the black folks don't know how to raise their kids. I mean, I'm bothered that African-Americans support him. Like, I am genuinely bothered. And I don't know how to break that away. Like, I don't know if that's, you make a video just on Joe Biden in that very specific instance. Because I'm telling you what is going to happen in the race. Mark my words. A vote for Biden is a vote for Trump. They're going to hit his sanity. They're going to say he's going senile, that he's sundowning, that he can't get his words right. He doesn't know where he is. Can't remember even Obama's name. They're going to go through a litany of all of the campaign fuck-ups. That's going to be one strand of attack. Joe Biden is losing his mind. The second strand of attack is Joe Biden's racist. And Trump is even going to get on stage and says, I was letting black people out of prison while you were working to put them in. That crime bill was racist, sir. And he was going to point at Joe Biden like this. And he's going to turn around in a huff. The protector of African Americans, Donald Trump. I'm telling you what is going to happen. Do you honestly believe that Donald Trump has any issue with hypocrisy in making these arguments? He is not. He is going to point to that crime bill. He's going to say that crime bill was racist. You knew that disparity between crack and cocaine was there, and you did it anyway. That's the first point. He's going to say that, look at the stuff that Joe Biden was saying on the campaign stage. He said black folks didn't know how to raise their kids. I have all sorts of black friends, and they can raise their kids very well, sir. That's what he's going to say on stage one. And he's going to also say that Joe Biden is losing his mind, and we can't put a president in office who's losing his mind. It's going to be 3 strands of attack. I shit you not. Watch. I hope we don't get the chance to see how right I am. You think I'm right? Wrong? Somewhere in between?
No, I think you're right. I'm just reading the comments. They're talking a lot about how they can't hear me, and the pop filter is like filtering me out and everything else. But we're like almost done with the video now, so we'll have to take that in stride for next time. Oh, okay. All right. Well.
There you go.
Thanks.
There you go, baby. Do you, boo? You're on.
So what? All right. Well, thank you for joining us for today's.
Oh, you finished? You got the mic, and it's like I did that.
Somebody says not the pop filter.
Trudy, I understand where you're coming from.
Najan says you
Trump
consciously fiddle with the mic. I don't see Trudy on tonight, so you're
that's
gonna
okay.
have
She'll find me. Trudy, I understand where you're coming from. I agree with it, and I don't have this belief that somebody commits a crime and you just give the guy a pass. The problem is, if you were living in a society where whites could commit crimes but blacks couldn't, that would seem dramatically unfair, right? Like if you were like, part of the thing on the left is we take issue with is the disparity between crack and cocaine. Why? Because one side is put in prison longer than the other side. And we consider that to be a betrayal or a travesty of justice. I mean, we say the same thing from the standpoint of pot, where cops lock up African Americans for 4 times more and for 4 times longer. We consider that to be a travesty of justice. And in fact, we attack Bill Clinton and even Joe Biden for pushing through laws that allowed such a thing to take place. Why is it not why does that logic fail in the sense of Trump? Like if we say that it's a travesty of justice for an African American to be put in jail for longer than whites for essentially the same crime, then why is it okay for Joe Biden to get a pass, but Trump not? I guess I'm going with this notion that, it's selective justice. I'm sorry. The media chooses what they want to be outraged about. And it just so happens they're outraged about something that's a problem for Joe Biden right now. And I think Joe Biden right here is freaked out. And his reaction in this video kind of gets across that what they're talking about and what they're asking him. This is CNN asking him that, by the way. That he may have some problems if this gets worse and if this continues. So, but we'll see. It's not that I love Trump. It's more so that I'm annoyed that the Democratic Party is going this particular route that is, I think, what amounts to a non-story. Honestly, I do. Like, it's one thing if there was no there. Like if Trump was doing this to get information on Joe Biden, just to get information on Joe Biden, like there was nothing to it. There was no smoke. There was no nothing. He just did it.
But there's legitimate
Yeah.
concern here.
There's a legit concern. And me and people like Trump supporters look at this and say, I want to get to the bottom of what happened and why we had this intrusion into our elections. That's what I say, especially when there's legitimate claims. And I don't want to take any shit from Democrats on this, seeing as they said that the investigation of Trump was sufficient in and of itself just because we needed to find out what was true. That's where I am. I need to know what's true. And did Ukraine have this outsized influence in our politics or not? If they released information on Manafort, whether Manafort was guilty or not is irrelevant. They leaked that information in order to hurt Trump. I guess the argument can be made about Julian Assange. But in this case, they have bitched and moaned so much about Assange and about WikiLeaks and everything else, and now you have a situation where something is leaked from Manafort. People want to find out, and Democrats are like, okay, we don't need to know anything about that. We can just keep moving. You want to know everything in the world about Trump, but you don't want to know anything about Biden? And the stuff that was being released in the Hill goes back almost like 2 years. I've been covering this story for like 2 years. Nobody paid any mind to it, and now this freaked out Joe Biden knows that this story and multiple stories may come to light. So, personally, I like this. Sanders is not really a Democrat. I don't necessarily know if this casts all that bad on him, even though it makes the DNC look horrendous. Because keep in mind, if I am right and the stuff for the Ukrainian embassy is true, which it is, that means the DNC was more deceptive than given credit for. Because, I mean, not only were they cheating Sanders in order to ensure that Clinton was going to get in office, meaning see the primaries, but they also were doing this. They were engaged in politics, engaged with another country in order to hurt Trump by releasing information to hit Manafort to get congressional hearings to try to, it's like they wanted to drag Trump into all of these campaign scandals and everything else. Now, to be fair, Trump drags himself into campaign scandals because he's Donald Trump. By the same token, it was Democratic strategy, and that strategy has gone to some degree bust.
All right, we're going to do the last topic?
Yeah, sure. I might make that its own video. Because
Okay,
we've been going for...
Before you say that, I'm going to take the mic back because I have to shut down your conversation earlier. So if you did not hear earlier, Jamal was talking about how when he was in the 80s in the barbershop playing chess, they invented the term pressure bust pipes. And I said, that is some fraganacle bull, because I remember that from a music reference way back in the day. Cammie S, yes, I'm getting completely off topic. Cammie S said, pressure made the diamond. Entertainer Diana Ross said in 1971, and pressure bust pipes, San Francisco's 49ers defensive lineman Gary Johnson said it in January 1985.
I was playing chess.
No, you weren't.
No, you weren't. I wasn't on the big board
According
yet.
to my calculations, you were 8. So thank you for Cammie. Jay Scott said Garden is a real crackhead.
What
Thanks
did Garden
for that. Hashtag justice for Jay.
What the hell did Garden do?
I don't know. They were talking about the chat went into a spiral about doing opiates and crack because Joe Biden's family members were all cracked
crack
out.
addicts, yeah.
And then everyone was like, I said, Trudy's not here. And so they're like, I'm Trudy. No, I'm Trudy. No, I'm Trudy. And so that went on for a little while.
I'll do the secondary video later. I'll do this in a separate video by itself. Somebody wanted to know, it's on the video. I think it's on the head of the video, so we got to do this one.
Yeah, you have to do it because somebody said that they came specifically for that. They're waiting for it. So even if you just do it quickly, Wesley Walker.
Bernie Sanders, Neutralize.
Let me read This is why the mic stays over to him, because it's a weapon. All right. So this is another topic suggestion that was submitted. There were actually 2. Vortex said, would you agree with Tulsi destroying Warren in the next debate the way she did Kamala Harris? But then the first one is from Leo. He says, if polling as we get closer to elections keeps Sanders and Warren close, do you think Bernie should start attacking Warren? I think she's done an excellent job of co-opting his message while giving herself enough wiggle room to pivot. Given that established media is starting to push her more on the general public,
Yes.
would it help or hurt Sanders to start presenting how they are different, or perhaps join forces with Tulsi to help chip away at Warren? My concern is that if things continue as is, Warren will split the vote enough to put into play the superdelegates, which will ultimately doom a Sanders run for 2020 presidency.
That's true. And by the way, that's a strategy, by the way. Either to win or to split it to the point where she can get into the back end and people will select her. With this notion that Joe Biden fades out. I mean, they said Joe Biden was like a corpse walking. They have this kind of notion that Joe Biden is going to flame out, in which case it's going to be between Warren and Sanders, and they hope Warren can stop Sanders. And I know I've seen Emma Vigeland flipping out at people calling Warren a corporate candidate and whatnot. It's not so much that people think she's a corporate candidate; it's that they think she's a corporate bargain. That would be the candidate that they're willing to. It's like, this is who we are. This is who we can.
She's like, she's tolerable.
She's tolerable. That's the way, my perception of Warren. She's tolerable to the corporate class because they know that she's not going to change anything fundamental to the way the system works.
Yeah, Hitflix said that was the plan from day one, to split the vote.
Yeah.
And I've heard you talk about that a lot, previously, is that's...
Yeah.
And I think that we answered the question, or we asked the question like a month or so ago. Is that why all the...
media and everybody else loves
why
it.
all the people are running. Like, why all these people on the ballot.
Yeah. Well, and so Warren is a slow, what is it called? A silent walker. It's like the person who the boss is saying, hey, you did a great job on the company. You guys did great. And you're like, what do you mean you guys? And you look around and there's Warren standing right there. I'm like, God damn it. How is she right there? Or it's like, I go to my boss and I'm sitting in a meeting. It's like, all right, we're going to give you guys a raise. What do you mean you guys? And Warren is sitting right there. We're like, God damn it. She didn't even write the program. Like, it's that stuff. Or it's like I do a bunch of videos and then somebody says, all right, Google says, all right, you guys, you did a great job with those 100,000 clips. And I see it and it has Warren's name on it. It's like, God damn it. How does she keep getting her name on this stuff? Warren is the person where you do the work and she comes up beside you and just kind of takes the credit. She'll just stand there silently. And you'll be like, God damn it, I didn't even know she was standing right there. That's who Warren is.
And people are, especially from the debates, because even as somebody who likes Bernie Sanders, when you see them in the debates, it looks like Warren and Sanders are like a team.
Yes.
Like they're fighting against the masses, just the two of them.
From
and
a political strategy standpoint, it's a good strategy. It makes all the sense in the world. And this debate in 2020 has been essentially, do you agree with Sanders or not? And Warren, in many respects, has said, yes, I agree with Sanders, with caveats. Well, the media is not incisive enough to figure out those caveats. Meaning, on the debate stage, you have Medicare for all. Warren has said, theoretically, I'm for it. So, yeah, I could argue it. In practice, Sanders is for it. So, in practice, Sanders can argue it. But you end up with a situation where both of them arguing, Sanders in practice, Warren in theory, because Warren hasn't associated her name with the bill. Meaning, Warren, in her Medicare for all plan, the Medicare for all bill, unless she's changed it, was not a part of it when she finally released it. So, Warren is for Medicare for all, or maybe something else. Like, it's, for her, it's theoretical. It's like, are you theoretically for Medicare for all? Yes, I am. Well, what about in practice? Well, in practice, I'm willing to take several things. We can call it Medicare for all. Well, that's not really Medicare for all in the way that we intend it. And I went through Warren's bill once before. I was like, this is not Medicare for all. I even went through comments that Warren has made where Warren went off the reservation talking about employer buy-in and all this other stuff. It's like, none of that is Medicare for all. She's for it in theory. Sanders is for it in reality. However, when you're standing on the campaign stage and you're arguing your theory and the other guy's arguing your practice and the mainstream media doesn't know the difference between the two, it makes it look like both of you are on stage together fighting for the same thing. They're not. There's differences in those things. The problem becomes, how do you attack somebody who's helping you? How do you do it? Like, because think back to the first debate. Sanders and Warren are on stage together. The second debate. They're on stage together fighting for Medicare for all. It was like they were in the foxhole.
He needs to, the same thing that you just said is what he needs to come out and say.
He can't say that.
Like, he needs to, like somebody said, chip away at her and bring to light the difference between him.
They need to vet her. Vet. Like, I don't want people to say attack because I don't want people attacking Warren. But vetting the shit out of her, yes. Radical, aggressive vetting. That's what I think needs to take place. Consistent, unceasing vetting. I mean, because I think ultimately my thing is there's a difference between these two factors, and that difference needs to be expounded upon. And whether that's on a debate stage where Sanders kind of makes the point, I'm the only candidate in this race that is not accepting money in this race or outside of this race. Like, he can say stuff like that where you can say, oh, that was a ding.
Something. Because right now people are looking and they're like, they're comparable.
And the media is pushing her hard.
She's got a vagina, so that's a leg up.
And the media is pushing her.
Pun intended.
Media is pushing her. I don't think that's a pun at all. I mean, I think that's true to some degree. I think you have a lot of people who thought they wanted Hillary. It's our turn. You have a lot of people who say it's our turn. And I'm like, I don't care about it being your turn. I can't reach you anyway, so I don't even try to reach those people. My goal is policy, not this quote-unquote our turn. And I don't trust Warren. I said it on multiple occasions. She needs to be vetted. Yeah. Now, whether Sanders is the one that should do that, I'm questionable on. Like, I don't necessarily know if this early in the process, Sanders should be out there trying to vet Warren. I think it's problematic. Joe Biden is the person that is the problem right now, because regardless of us thinking Joe Biden is going to flame out, he hasn't yet. And he needs to, meaning the fire and the attacks need to be unceasingly to some degree on Biden. By the same token, it needs to be kept in mind how to neutralize Warren. And I strongly suspect vetting her. The catch is you can't do that on any random campaign stage. Like, because if you're on the debate stage, she's helping you by defending either your education plan or your college or your financial thing for when you get older, like Social Security or school. Like, she is literally out there defending him and standing beside him, even though her stuff is different. So it's like, can you really attack her in that scenario? How? And you don't think there will be a response in regards to a backfire? Like, you don't think there will be blowback to attacking Warren in a debate where she has essentially helped you in the last 3 debates?
Attack is a little aggressive, but...
Aggressive vetting?
Aggressive vetting, delineating, some kind of delineation of the... You know what I mean? Like, there needs to be some light...
He needs to show the difference.
Right.
I agree. But I think the way he shows...
I'm not exactly sure how to do that. That's why I'm stuttering.
I think the way he does that is not to attack her, but more so to bring up the policy differential. Maybe that's the way to do it.
Zoc says no different than slaughtering your pet pig for bacon. That's a little intense, but yeah.
I guess my thought is you have to show distinction, and I think that's vetting. Like, if he's on stage with her,
right,
make up the point,
saying.
Look, I'm the only one in this race who's not accepting campaign donations. But like you said, that's not attacking Warren in an overt way, but it is hitting her because she is being deceptive about this. The media may pick up and say, well, oh, wait, because you're saying Warren is not accepting. Like, they may do that. Like, I'm saying he is not going to hit her.
I think it could be more overt than that.
He's not going to hit her. I'm telling you, he's not going to hit her. He's too nice. I keep saying he needs a Batman.
And then to the question of Tulsi attacking.
Tulsi would.
Somebody said Tulsi ain't in no more debates.
She may get into the 4th, but it's unclear. I mean, her polling went up after the last debate that she wasn't even in.
Michael Williams says that it has to be on foreign policy and it should be Tulsi.
Yeah, because what's her name doesn't talk that much about foreign policy. And you can't hit her for something that is kind of out of, like, it has to be something that was within context. Like, if you're going to hit her.
Chinese Google lover says Bernie needs to take the gloves off from here on out.
He does.
Simply.
I agree with you. It's not that I disagree with you. I just think Tulsi is complicated.
He can take the gloves off, but he has to hit softly.
Yeah, because you have a lot of Tulsi supporters that are different than Sanders supporters, even though you would think that they would be very similar. She gets the white vote in spades. She gets the woman vote in spades. And if you piss those people off, those people may not vote for you, which is my issue. My issue is more so, I don't necessarily want to... Yes, I attack Warren, or I vet Warren. But I vet Warren because I want to show the difference between her and Sanders. And I think the stuff that I bring up is legit. It's not me bullshitting. I'm not saying she's, corporate America's favorite candidate. I am saying that from the standpoint of her and Sanders, that they would rather take her in spades as opposed to Sanders, who they are terrified of. But I mean, I don't think I unfairly attack her. And I think I've always given her credit, even in those debates, saying, wow, her defense of Medicare for all, Sanders needs to get her on his camp. Like, that type of stuff, because she defends that stuff extremely well. But I don't trust her as far as I can throw her. I think she's under the thumb of a party that, mind you, worked with a foreign government in order to cheat one of the candidates, that cheated the candidate who I was pushing for, and said that they can cheat and pick candidates in a smoke-filled room. So, like, this is a party to which she is under the thumb of. And so it's like, will I really trust Warren when I know that for the most part, in one situation after the next, she's essentially just towed the line of whatever the Democratic Party wanted? No, I don't trust it. I don't trust it at all. I will have a video out called Vetting Warren. And so that's what I'm saying. I will hold off to some degree on going full way into this. But, they rigged it thing where Warren came out after reading Donna Brazil's thing, said they rigged it, and then immediately said they didn't because the Democratic Party essentially came out with their policy position on it. The not supporting Sanders is big. And you find out later that she had a 2013 deal with Clinton to give her support. You find out now that Clinton is working with Warren in the back end, and that Warren didn't necessarily want that information made available to the public. Obvious reasons, especially from the standpoint of the left. This notion of not taking money in the primary, but taking it in the general.
What is that?
Well, it's essentially you have nowhere else to go argument, but it's being put in the sense of you didn't want a candidate who's taking that money. As evidence of that, multiple candidates stopped taking money. But now that I'm out of the primaries and all of my competition is gone, it's fair game now because you have nowhere else to go, and it's either between me and Trump, and you're going to take me and not care about the money. That's what that is. I'm making a point that each of these things are distrustful, breeds distrust. Even the Standing Rock. I mean, she's self-identified as a Native American. Self-identified. Now, my grandfather was around me growing up. And I didn't look at him or myself as being a Native American. I looked at him as being black, who just so happened to have Native American genes. I didn't self-identify despite having a Native American in my family. I'm supposed to believe that Warren self-identified. Now, they say she didn't get anything out the deal. What she got out the deal, as opposed to what she thought she might have been able to, are two different things. I don't entirely hit her entirely on that, but I don't believe that she self-identified for no reason with somebody who's supposedly ancient history in her family. I don't buy that at all.
Wait.
But this person who self-identified stood by while real Native Americans were getting their heads bashed in at Standing Rock. That was something you cared about also, by the way.
Are you reminding me?
Yeah, I'm reminding you.
Vivian says Tulsi Vivian says Tulsi can attack women and minorities without being accused of racism or sexism.
Yes.
Unlike Bernie. She said she should do that much for Bernie. She has plenty of years left to become a better politician.
You know what would be cool if Tulsi said, look, I supported Sanders. I stepped down in order to support Sanders while you essentially signed a secret letter backing Clinton. Like, she could totally do something like that where she's because everything that she said about what's her name was true. Like, everything that she said about Kamala Harris was true. Like, that, it wasn't like she smeared her. She hit her with stuff that was legit. Well, the moment that you bring up the Elizabeth Warren thing of like, well, I mean, you're accepting money outside of the primary, putting people back in the position of never having anywhere else to go, whereas myself and Sanders have just sworn off money. Like, she can do stuff like that. And I think that would have some level of impact. People would be pissed off at her, but they already call her a Assad apologist, Putin puppet, all this other stuff. I don't think this was going to make that much of a difference.
Wesley Walker Jr. says UAW
What's happening, Wesley?
Has been on strike for a week. I'm not allowed to say anything. Just thought you should know. Walking the picket right now.
So I have a story that I wanted to cover where they I think it's that where they take the healthcare away from somebody's child who has cancer, who's on that picket line. And the argument is Joe Biden consistently made the argument of, well, wait, are you telling me that people or those companies are going to give those employers that back from the standpoint of Medicare for all? And Joe Biden was like, yeah, you believe in employers more than, for a socialist, that was the line you practice. Well, you have a situation now where those workers negotiated for their health care. Those workers are on strike, and the company got rid of their health care. There was a kid with cancer.
I think I saw that story.
Yeah. And look, if my mom was working there and I had kidney failure, what does that mean for her? And they're like, oh, they can get Cobra. Cobra is obscene in the amount of money that Cobra costs. And oftentimes they're telling people who don't have a job that they can get Cobra. Yeah, you don't have a job right now, but hey, you can get this Cobra for $500. Yeah, Wesley, I'm going to cover that story. I have that stuff very cute. It was that cute up, but it's in my head.
Garden Gnome says Warren can't beat Trump. That's all there is to it. She comes off as hokey, dishonest, and self-interested.
Agreed.
Her team sucks. She can't control her optics. And she has zero chance of pulling the right.
Well, right. I don't think she pulls the right at all. I think you're right about her losing to Trump.
Jay Scott says she comes off as phony. Go ahead.
She does. I mean, have you ever heard her kind of, like when she was talking about the Cenk Uygur, and she said, she was talking about the primary, because Cenk Uygur said, why didn't you support Sanders? The real answer is she had a deal with Clinton going back to 2013 and she wasn't going to support, that she was going to support Clinton. She lied to Jake Uger. And when she lied, she was so disingenuous when she did it. She was like, you know what?
Did you stop doing that?
That's what she did. That's what she did. She did. That was her tell. When she does that, she tells. She's like, I think we had a great primary, Jink. That's what she said. She said, I thought we had a great primary. And I ran the video footage of her saying they rigged it and didn't rig it, and said essentially she thought that a process where she came out saying they rigged it one day and then they didn't rig it a couple of days later was a great primary process. She's massively disingenuous. And I don't think she can beat Trump. I said that more than one occasion. I still believe it. I don't think she wins. I don't think she wins. Sanders, if you're looking at white working class voters for under $100,000 and $150,000, under $50,000, he's your guy. He's the one that's pulling those workers from Walmart and Amazon. People, just ordinary workers. He's pulling them in spades. If you're looking for somebody to beat Trump, it's not Warren. It's not Warren. She may get through the primary because media is boosting her up. I mean, all of the media attention that she's been getting, I mean, they need to call that free advertising. I mean, I got sent a video from somebody, and he was showing me. So take a look at this. All right. It's not that one. So the media is talking about polls. So in one poll, so I think it was either CNN or MSNBC. Poll comes out on Fox News. Sanders up 8, Biden down, I forget how much. Warren, I think, down by like 4. They pull it and it says, yeah, we don't really need to pay attention to this Fox News poll. Let's get the CNN poll that shows Sanders down in Iowa. They literally did that. The question becomes, can Sanders win a campaign without having the mainstream media on his side? Because they will be against him. And it will be weird and interesting to see what happens between Trump and Sanders in a mainstream media thing where they hate both candidates. You know, it's funny. Media oftentimes will make this illusion or that Trump supporters and Sanders supporters are somehow similar. And they do this and make this kind of thing because I think what it boils down to is they're millionaires who are disassociated with the society itself. And so where you get Sanders rallying the troops of the population, where you also see Trump having all of these supporters, like 8,000, 10,000 people going to Trump rallies, these hate rallies. I think they look at these things as somewhat problematic from the standpoint of establishment politics, and they're terrified of either. I'm curious to see how they handle both.
Anthony Reyes, I disagree, but he says, don't ever stop doing that when you tell the Warren story.
What?
That nose thing that you do, that's disgusting.
That's literally what she did.
Anthony Reyes says, don't stop doing that.
It's
Trudy and
what
I
she
said,
did. Trudy's not here.
Stop. Trudy is here. The real Trudy has stood up.
She's appeared?
The real Trudy is here.
All I'm saying is that's what she did. I'm only quoting you reality. And you being like Twitter trying to censor me for showing something that actually happened. You know, like if you're on Twitter, she did do that. What do you want to bet? I will bet you anything in the world that is literally what Elizabeth Warren did. What do you want to bet? What do you want to bet? What do you want to bet?
Well, she may have done that gesture.
Oh, now you're backing away from that. All right.
But she didn't do
Save
it.
a face. Go ahead.
With the
Save face.
Drama.
She did.
That you did.
She even paused when she did it. She says, I tell you what, Jenk. I thought we had a great primary.
Pull it up. Pull it up. She didn't do that.
She did just that.
What is that?
That's how she did. That's her tell. When she's lying to the public, that's her tell. She did do that.
Jay Scott said, better... Will Warren ever
attack Bernie? Yes.
Bernie, sorry.
Yes, she will. As it gets closer to the primary, she will attack Sanders. I don't necessarily know if the same is true going the other way around. The answer is yes. You think she will? Or you don't think?
DeSalle says, I'm looking up the video right now. Please. Yeah. Somebody said stop bullying Jamarl, progressive. Jamarl.
You think she'll attack Sanders?
Yes.
I think so too. I don't think Sanders would attack her though, which is kind of the problem.
That's the shitty part.
That is the shitty part.
Like he should, like a preemptive strike.
Preemptive vetting. Let's call it preemptive vetting.
No, I like preemptive strike.
Well, I like the politics around this notion of strike. I like preemptive vetting.
I like preemptive strike.
Because I don't want her supporters to think she's being attacked. I want them to think she's being vetted.
I want her to be like creepy Uncle Joe in that video and pointing aggressively at people because she's defending. She's on defense.
I don't think that's going to happen.
That's what I would like.
I don't think that's going to happen. But you never know. Never.
Elephants on Coke says, I think it's strictly policy. Bernie will say why his ideas are better than Warren's.
Yes.
That's fine, but hit her.
But, well, his point is, well, it's not really... I mean, I guess it is hitting, even if you're vetting. I like the term vetting. I don't want her supporters to think she's being attacked. I want her supporters to think she's being aggressively vetted.
Strike. While the iron's hot. What other words can I use? All right,
guys. I'm going to end this. We've been doing this...
It's 8:31.
For 2 hours.
Now.
Oh, jeez. All right.
No, we started at 5:30.
What's this, 2 hours and 25 minutes?
No, it was 6:30.
Well, it's but 2 hours. I mean, because there was 20 minutes where it was just kind of a thing. All right, guys.
Ooh.
I'm going to end this.
I'm not reading that.
Like, share, subscribe. And guys, honestly, thank you. The show is brought to you by you. And I'm dragging ass right now because I haven't been to bed in a couple of days. But I still wanted to do this show.
He fell asleep. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna put your business out there.
I didn't fall asleep anywhere.
You fell asleep in the chair last night.
No, I didn't. I mean, if I was there, I might have been for like 20 minutes. I mean, I got up and started doing work. You fell asleep at like 8 o'clock.
No, I went to bed at 8 o'clock.
This is literally past your bedtime.
No, it's not. I don't go to bed at 8 o'clock.
It's hitting your bedtime.
But I'm going to see now, since you tried to put me out there, I'm going to go ahead and put your business out there and tell them how you fell asleep and like your head hit the wall or something and the picture frame fell down and woke up everybody at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yes, it was.
That is not how it happened.
When I came in here, you were out of it. I was like, babe, what the fuck was that? And you were like, what?
No, that is not how it happened.
What happened?
That is not how it happened.
It was so loud, your mom was like, what the hell is that?
I was aware that the frame fell, but that's not how it happened. I mean, you came in, I think I might have been out for like 20, 30 minutes. And you're like...
Because what happens is you usually, when you fall asleep in the chair, you lean back and your head is like laying up against all this stuff. So you were laying up against this and knocked it down at 3 o'clock in the morning.
That's not how it happened.
That's exactly what happened.
That is not how it happened. And you're getting somebody who came in after the fact, who goes to bed at like 7 o'clock and then complains.
It was 8 o'clock a minute ago, and now it's 7 o'clock. I don't care what time I go to sleep.
Actually, to be fair,
I woke up and came in here, and that's what I saw.
Well, I work late.
You do.
And I don't have that ability like you to just sit there and do nothing for 3 hours. I would love to have that capability.
Fuck
It's like,
I don't sit at work and do nothing for 3 hours.
I'm going to sit here and watch my phone for 3 hours. And then I'm going to go to bed because I've had a busy evening. It's like, all right.
Screw you, man. I work hard.
Yeah.
For the majority of the time
that you're working. Yeah.
Of the day.
Look, I'm not, you're not being, nobody's attacking you. I'm just pointing it out. I'm just vetting aggressively.
Hitflix said, yep, he just called you out. You guys said the same thing at the same time. Is it aggressive vetting? You're wrong. All right, I'm going. Clearly, I have to go to sleep because it's past my bedtime, so I have to go.
To be fair, it's 9 o'clock. You'd agree with that, right? 9 o'clock.
Is what?
Your bedtime.
No.
Why did your voice go up an octave? When people are telling the truth.
I'm offended.
You're offended that I say your bedtime is at 9 o'clock?
Because you're lying.
You're angry and offended. Like, offense is something else. Like, offense is, how dare Joe Biden said that my family couldn't raise their kids. But you're taking offense that I imply that you go to bed at 9? You have that strong feelings about that? Okay. People have strong feelings about some of anything, I suppose. But I'll end this so you can do whatever you're going to do for the rest of the night.
I am going to bed soon. But I don't have a bedtime. I go to bed when my body says get in the bed. If I have something to do, sometimes I'll be up late.
Like today.
But one of the reasons I end up going to bed so early is because I can't sleep a whole night through because there's random shenanigans that are going on at 2 o'clock in the morning, like somebody cooking food in the kitchen,
or doing the news,
or knocking the wall,
doing the news,
bashing photo frames, and
or doing the news,
screaming about Joe Biden being senile
doing the news
at 2 o'clock in the morning. And so I have to compensate sometimes because I know that I'm not going to get sleep.
All right, I'm gonna let Mrs. Thomas hysterics about her bedtime stuff in here. Like, share, subscribe. This show is brought to you by you, and I appreciate you for allowing me to do so. Anything else?
Thank you.
That's it. That's it. You good?
Thank you for your support for my husband.
And you too. You're on the show.
And for all of the subscribers. If you are watching and you are not subscribed, make sure that you subscribe.
We're almost at 25,000, by the way. Did you see this? We're almost at 25K.
You should be at 30,000.
Well, I would say we, because I do include us when I talk about it. I don't think you need to remove yourself. We're at 24,800 subscribers.
So everybody go out today,
like,
and get a new subscriber.
Share, subscribe. Thanks all.